got a couple of
Reports are
leads.
often true.
Oh yeah, there's definitely been some ramblings, right? Like behind the scenes about like whether G2 could be making changes. Obviously, the whole YEKINDAR situation, there's no way G2 didn't ask about YEKINDAR. Like, let's just put it that way. Like, there's no way there's a player like YEKINDAR available and they don't go to VP asking how much.
Any player any team outside of the top like 6-7 that didn't ask about YEKINDAR are not doing their job.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets, guaranteed.
Bomb has been planted.
Hey buddy, let me show you how to fix that. Bitskins.com. Buy and sell skins instantly. Deposit and withdraw funds instantly with crypto or directly to your Visa card. Bitskins.com. The best skin marketplace.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, Counter-Strike fans across the globe, welcome to another episode of HLTV Confirmed, powered by Xtrfy, Bitskins, and N1Bet. Gamble responsibly, Season 6, Episode 19. I'm joined by Prof, who I've heard is working on a summer wear version, maybe even for swimming, of the turtlenecks. What type of material are you experimenting with at the moment, Prof?
Well, I think we're going for the classic like scuba diving material, although that could be maybe too hot for the summer. So we're putting in a lot of resources in our research and development team to find out new materials that can work as a turtleneck, but also to swim in, but also to not be too hot, but potentially even to work in the winter as well, as something that you could wear as a night out, right? So it would be amazing.
Very functional piece of clothing right there.
Yes.
I'm sure we all look forward to seeing that in the HLTV merch shop very soon. Now, Striker, it rhymes with hiker. Do you enjoy a hike? Are you a man who likes to get out there in the mountains, maybe a bit of a wander around by like a coastal walk? How do you feel about hiking, Striker?
I think I like it when it's up to about 30 minutes to an hour.
Okay.
So not really mountain.
So a short hike.
Wise. Yes.
More
like
of
a short hike.
more of a, not a stroll. You're going for, I would put you in the field of walk. I wouldn't put you in hike, and I wouldn't put you in stroll. I think you would have to find yourself and just walk. So you like walking?
Recreational moving on my feet is good.
Okay, all right. And of course, we have our guest here that you can all see on your lovely screens. Half of the H&H duo, founding member of the Goonies, Lord of the Manor. That is Hugo Byron, aka Huge Byron. Hugo, how you doing this evening, mate? What brand of caviar is on over there at the Manor this evening?
We got the quail eggs actually out tonight, Chad. We're going real fancy. Jeeves has put on quite a display, quite a plate. So yeah, happy to be here. Thank you guys for having me. I just came off of Pinnacle, got home late last night after a delayed flight, and I'm ready to talk counter with you boys.
All right, we've been playing a lot of ES Portal lately. Rush is even in it, so we're going to have to start. Yeah, look, there's a lot of names floating around now. Henry said he wants to get involved. We can start opening up some bigger lobbies. So it's good to have you back. Look, we got you on the show to talk about all the recent Counter-Strike that's been happening here this evening. But the first thing, boys, and I want the people at home also in the comments section, in Twitch chat now, just around the world on the social medias, I want to have this chat. I want to get it done. I want to get it out there in the public air. I said when we kicked off, Season 6, Episode 19, can we get rid of the bloody seasons, boys? What do the people at home in chat want? What do the people in the comment sections want? I just want an episode number. right? What can we say about this?
Maybe just ask for a spam of certain emotes, because we have new emotes now available. So maybe you spam a lul if you think we should keep the current ones, and if you don't think, if you just go episode 79 or like 150 or where we are now, just maybe throw in a Chad. There's a Chad there somewhere, the mall chat.
Okay,
That's it.
All right. Well, we'll get our people. Yeah.
Yeah, I think one way to do it is like, you know how we were in 2020 and all the events went online, and we still had the whole ESL circuit. Each event was still called the country. So you're sitting there in your home playing IEM Beijing from your bedroom, right? We should start giving each episode new cities maybe, and we should put Lucas in those cities on his own to produce the show.
Okay, that's a great idea actually. Lucas, are you up for the kind of travel miles?
I think that's a yes.
Can we just start like making up episode numbers and see who notices it?
Well, we
first,
could do episode names and not numbers. Like we could name the episode, right? This could just be HLTV confirmed, and it will come up with some name, something that Hugo says
special.
This evening. Yeah, you know, like you never know. I guess
I think this is definitely Naples. I am HLTV confirmed Naples.
Okay.
This is definitely a Naples vibe here with the shirts and everything going on. Maybe you're kind of like a surf vibe over there, but I don't know. I think we could pull off a Naples right now.
I'm looking forward to seeing what the people in the comment section have to say about this whole conversation when we get there. All right, let's run the bumper. Let's get into the recent news and let's start having a chit chat. All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's get into some of the recent news here now. It's shock news. It's shock Stiker, that's for sure. Now, Overdrive tweeted as per usual before the news broke about the fact that we weren't going to be having Degster and Spirit. You know, it's always lacking information, but you always know something's coming. So Degster, the AWP player for Spirit, who was just top 4 in the previous major. They obviously with that team that nobody's expecting to do very well. Degster, the highest rated player for the team, the star player, the AWPer, big role to fill. But Stiker, you were shocked that he's going to leave Magic's Chopper, Siren, and Patsy. Why were you so shocked by this whole situation?
I mean, who the fuck sees a star opera, the best player of the major for that team, you know, leaving after they just made top 4 that nobody ever saw fucking coming. And like, you know, 3 weeks later or whatever it is now, he's gone from the team. Like, who the fuck does that? You know, like how is this a reasonable world that we're living in?
I think when you look at it from like that jaw-dropping perspective, I'll link you the tweet here, Lucas, so you can bring it up so everyone can see his words about the situation. When you don't have the context of why, I'm with you there. But as soon as the why comes in, right, this is where for me it just becomes a black and white decision. It's very simple, right? Well, no, because like, look, at the end of the day, this boils down to, and if the people at home aren't too certain on why this happened, Spirit are now wanting to be based in Serbia, and Degster is Russian, and he doesn't want to be in Serbia, right? Like at the very, very base level decision making, he doesn't want to be in Serbia, and Spirit want to be in Serbia. That's pretty simple to me, right? Like in terms of a career decision or having a team turn heads and now being on our radar, because for Spirit, for example, we've got them coming up in Cologne play-ins. They're going to be in the Rubek Cup. We're excited to see more of this team. Now, right, Stiker, are you still excited?
I mean, I am excited, but I'm going to say one thing, which is that as much as I said that it was mainly because he didn't want to live in Serbia, or that he wanted to live back in Russia. There's been some comments from people from Spirit that kind of insinuated that there still were some disagreements between, you know, how the team wanted to play. I know it's a guy who just went to me on Twitter, kind of like translating a part of like Overdrive stream about it, maybe from I think yesterday or maybe 2 days ago when it happened. Which said something along the lines of that Degster just wanted to be the team star and he wanted to be set up a lot, while Hallie didn't really agree with that. He didn't really want a team where you play for one guy to this level. And so there clearly was some disagreements on how the team was playing as well, and that contributed to it. Maybe the fact that he didn't want to live in Serbia kind of quickened that decision, and that's also like a wording that the coach used in the statement. So there's definitely other factors as well, but I feel like if it didn't have that underlying thing about, you know, him not necessarily being sure about living in Serbia, maybe it wouldn't have happened yet, and maybe it would only happen if they saw that, you know, the major result wasn't really something that they could rely on in the future, right?
Okay, that's interesting. So this is secondhand. This is through Overdrive on his stream, right? It's not.
But there are some comments that were made officially from the CEO and from the coach that kind of hinted at it, but it, you know, it was fairly vague. So this just gives it a little bit more context.
Okay, so Prof, shocking news, lose the Star Orpa here with the context in play. What do you do now if you're Spirit?
I don't know. I mean, there are other good CIS hoppers. There's that
Deco
kid
we
called
talk
Deco,
about.
right? He's the next in line. But it is still a kick in the balls in terms of the expectations for Spirit. Like, you can't really go into the next events until the player break, until after the player break, and really expect them to be anywhere near where they were at the major. It's just like you take out the best player, even if the player you put in is like 80% or like 90%, it's still a new guy that needs to adapt to the system. So you kind of write them off almost for a couple of months until they get everything sorted out. And it's just like a sad thing because it's happening now across a lot of teams at the same time. A lot of roster changes, a lot of teams that are like, it's cool, but I can't really expect anything from them yet. So that is just kind of a sad thing. Wonderful is also a team player name that's being thrown around, of course.
Yeah, well, this takes a bit of the wind out of the sails for Spirit here. And as I mentioned, they have the Rubeck Cup coming up online, and then IEM Cologne Play-ins, right? So for those, it's kind of just, well, we'll see who they get and what we get of them. But for Hugo, you look at Degster here. He's made this decision. You bring in the context that Striker's talking about, that he didn't want to get things done the way that Spirit wanted to as a team. What does he do next, right? He's coming from a region that's in flux at the moment, right? Just in terms of the world situation. He's going to stand in for OG. Is it likely you think that he goes international offers? Where would you see Degster going? What do you see him doing next? Because he's not going to stop playing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the good thing about this decision is he's really young, right? Like, I think he's just 20, so it's not the end of his career, right? It may put him on the back burner for a bit, but at the same time, like in a sense, not that I think this is a good move. I'd love to see him stay in the team, but maybe he's getting ahead of the post major drop off. Think about how many CIS teams we see make runs at majors, come in big when we don't expect them to, go top 8, and then just completely fall apart. Like, so many chopper rosters, Vegas, Spirits have done this before. So not that I think that was necessarily going to happen to Spirit. They immediately came back from the major and started losing online games, of course, but who doesn't? But international offers, yeah, maybe I don't think he's going to replace Mantu and OG anytime soon. Mantu still seems to be popping off. And I actually kind of like that we have the first game of Blast, which obviously we'll talk about later, is going to be Degster and OG versus Sundar Young and Navi. So you have like a battle of the stand-ins, right? Which obviously stand-in meta right now always has been. I don't know where he's going to go, but CIS Orpas, man, there are plenty. I think even replacing him probably, won't be too difficult. A lot of people are talking about like Wonderful, right? Really young Ukrainian Orpa, someone like that. I hesitate to throw even a name like Waro 2K in the mix. Like, there's so many players who could replace him. So it's not the end of the line for Degster, but maybe we won't see him all too much for the next few months. Maybe you'll have to put a new roster together. I don't really know.
Yeah, I'm trying to have a look.
What if he doesn't like Serbia as a place to live in, but maybe he loves the United States, for example?
Yeah, but where's he going to go even then, right? Like,
Complexity.
Yeah, true. Like, that would probably be cool.
That would be a banger move.
Yeah,
Complexity got him. That would be like insane. That would be an insane snap up, right?
I think that right there would be a great decision. But the whole thing with this new Complexity roster is the old team, it felt like they overspent, right? And this new team, it feels like they're trying to, maybe keep a couple extra pennies. So I don't know how much money they want to be throwing around here. He's transfer listed, right? So
the question is how much are they actually going to be asking for him? Like, if they don't really want to play with him, then it's not really there's no point in really putting.
It's worth a lot. He has a high value.
I mean, it depends on his contract, right? Because like it's been like a year and a half. I think it's early 2020. Say it's a 2-year contract and half a year is left on his contract. That's not going to be a massive amount even after this major performance. It's just not going to be a unreasonable buyout probably. Of course, we talk about CIS contracts sometimes being a little bit awkward, but I feel like Spirit have been like one of the more reasonable organizations from the region. So I would assume it's not outrageous, for a player like this.
Okay.
At the same time, I think it's kind of weird because, given the fact that he's playing in a Russian org, like so many are sanctioned right now, Gambit's gone, VP, not really a factor. Who knows what they're doing after the major and with all that's going on with YEKINDAR. But like, he got the chance to play in a Russian org that wasn't sanctioned, that was still willing to work with him and putting him in Serbia. You guys say like Complexity and NA, but the source says, right, that he wants to stay in Russia.
Yeah.
So I think it's even there, teams, how many teams want to pick up a player that is going to be staying in that country, given everything going on? I don't know what flights are like and travel. Obviously, for like a team like Entropiq, they're located in the Czech Republic right now. So I think if he is staying in Russia, if it's not just like, oh, I don't like Serbia, I want to be at home, I think that could hamstring him, to be honest.
We can throw this up, by the way, because there's a little bit more context from because Dexter came out. I imagine in part because of what I said and what I wrote in the HLTV.
Let me read it for the audio only
go.
listeners here for us. So this is a tweet from Dexter. It's an image that he's put up, and it's on Twitter. It says official comment, and then over the image of him looking very dapper in a coat with a scarf around his neck, going up some stairs at what I can only imagine is an airport. It reads, "Hello everyone. There is a lot of talk about me leaving Spirit active roster, so I'd like to provide context so you guys would understand my decision better. The organization wants every player to spend at least 9 months per year in Serbia. However, there are certain personal matters that prevented me from being able to meet these demands. In addition, my girlfriend is in Moscow, and we needed more time to make a decision if we wanted to live in Serbia in the first place. Overall, this was a mutual decision influenced solely by personal factors, so there is no political context here."
Yeah, I would say the last part there is basically the biggest reason why he's saying this, because there were people who were suggesting maybe he supports the war or whatever, but obviously there's no indication of that. So
reasonable conclusion.
Exactly. Obviously there are going to be people like that. Fuck that, especially when there's literally zero indication of that being the case, right? So, and obviously Russian people can't really say outright that they're against the war, otherwise they're going to risk being jailed. So that's obviously not something that he can just come out and say outright. But obviously, this is his way of trying to get ahead of the situation and not, have people speculate too much.
Okay. Well, we'll get to see what the fallout is soon. Dexter will be playing and standing in for OG, who have just recently added Neofrag and Fiku. And we'll get to see Spirit play in Rubek Cup in a couple weeks' time. And then the Cologne Plains and see who their fifth is, who they've landed on in that amount of time. Okay. Moving over to Entropiq, who now have a ex-Spirit player in Mir. If you're not familiar with Mir, he's been around the traps for some time, but when he was on Spirit, he was one of the more star players. Last time he played an official match was October of 2021. That's when he played at the major against Astralis. He replaces Lackey on Entropiq, which I think is probably the player that most of us would have been saying would have been replaced, to join Alien Forrester, Nickelback, and Krad. They've played 3 different series so far, and they beat K23 but lost to Ecstatic and Eternal Fire. Now, Ecstatic is probably a different conversation for a different time. They're getting a lot of flack right now on the internet, aren't they? That's fucking getting hot and heavy out there. Mir is the highest rated player in those 3 series that they've played so far for Entropiq. But Prof, you look at this, he comes in, he replaces Lackey. He's definitely a firepower upgrade. But what else does he bring? Does this team now become like a top 10 contender? How much stock are we putting in Entropiq now?
I think this is the question about Mir, like, what is he as a player? Because looking up his stats during the Spirit era, like during his, how long it was, like a year and a half or something, he had a 1.20 rating for across all of those games. That's pretty insane. Honestly, though, it did drop off against the best teams. It did especially drop off at the major and stuff like that. He doesn't really put up the same level of performances, but that is in itself still a fucking crazy number. His consistency has been really good overall, and then he just gets dropped out of the team, and it's kind of weird, like, what is going on? And then these stories pop up, and like about his, maybe not that is toxic, but like he's not a great player to work with in a team, right? That's kind of what people have been saying. Then others have said that that's not true and that he changed and all of these things. But if he is, like, just watching him play on the server, he's obviously really good. But then if the team is not performing, this is kind of a indictment of him as a player. I think this is what I'm looking for from Entropiq. Like, okay. I think he will put up the kills. I think that's not a question mark at all. I think the question mark is, will it actually improve the results for the team? Because obviously, as you said, it's a firepower upgrade. There's no way around it. But it's also not like he is a support player or a player that's like just going to fit any role that is given to him. He's going to get the best roles on the team, and then he's going to put in good numbers. But how will the team work around that? I think Entropiq, when they were at their best, they were a team that Elian was really good and like super consistent, but the rest of the team just kind of swapped around depending on the map or the game, or about like who is going to perform, because they played a really like a team-based style of CS. So will that continue on, or will this, I mean, I'd hope that they continue with the same style, but just with a better player. And that would then unlock them to be like top 10 edge contender, which they haven't been since like the PGL major, I feel like.
Yeah, there's been a bit of a drop off. Now you bring up a lot of things there about what Mir could bring or you know, may hamper the team with. Yeah, I'll throw this one to Hugo. Hugo, you got Prof saying that Mir's going to bring more firepower. I think we all agree with that. But who are the players that in the team might look to suffer? Do you think like Forrester is going to have any of his positions take? Because he's been an absolute beast for this Entropiq. Do you think they're going to keep things similar and do more what Prof was saying there, just bring him in and try and keep playing the way they were, or do you think they're going to change a lot of shit with Mir?
Yeah, I think the firepower is guaranteed, right? We even saw that in the first couple of games. But I think Entropiq are weird as well because they're a team that, when you look at numbers after the game, like the kill distribution of this roster is always so tight. So I think that is a question: like, is he going to take a lot of room, or is he going to change his roles a little bit? For me, while the firepower is there, I kind of have to agree with what Prof said. It seems like it's an attitude thing as to the reason that maybe he's been benched from teams in the past, or he's not even lasted too long, but like gone to big heights with previous rosters like Spirit, for example. And I think a good example of that is like looking at his previous like major runs, for example, right? He's played under Chopper for so many years. Under Vega Squadron, we saw those majors, like 3 majors in a row where Vega Squadron were making like top 16 runs, getting through to legend stage, all these things. And then even after he was getting removed from those rosters and you were seeing replacements like Kabaka, now Tony Black, Spirit at the time, or Vega rather at the time, was still making runs without him. Same as this major, right? He leaves the team in November last year. Boom, Spirit going on top 4 in Antwerp. Like I think the firepower is there, obviously, undeniably, but there definitely is something internal, maybe inside or outside of the game, maybe an attitude problem, because that much has been rumored, but also the results kind of speak for themselves in that sense. At the same time, I think, you know, a firepower addition is kind of nice. We did see Entropiq completely stagnate after Stockholm. They bombed out of the RMR. It just looked awful. So that was, I think, for me, the biggest surprise of the RMR is not seeing them do anything there. I think they got like 1 win. So yeah, firepower is good, but I worry more so about the longevity of him in this team and like what that will mean and whether he'll be able to work with Nickelback. But if he's going to go in and drop 30 kills a map, like, hey, maybe it's worth it.
Okay. You got anything on this strike, or you want to move on to the next one?
Yeah, no, I think it's been pretty much covered.
Okay, we'll move on to talking about Lucky returning to Tricked. Now, if you're not familiar with Lucky, I can understand the poor kid. He got chewed up, spat out, went through that Astralis lovely little meat grinder that they have going out there for the young bucks. Look, he's only 19, striker. Is he going to be, because he's going back to Tricked, he is replacing the AWPer on the team, Larson, who's on the bench, so he's going to be doing the role that he was originally brought into Astralis for. And as I mentioned, he's young. Is he going to be one of these?
Maybe he decides he wants to play the rifle, just like he did when he joined Astralis.
maybe. But the point here is this going to be, because the cupboards are kind of bare in Denmark as far as AWPers go, right? Like in terms of good ones. We have Device, but he's not playing. We have Nikodos, and he just joined Fnatic. And then other than that, like Cadian, Cadian's, we'll talk about Pinnacle Cup. If he was good there, if he can hold that level, then you throw him in that conversation, right? But he's also an in-game leader, so he's not the same availability, right? Like he fills 2 shoes. But then in terms of other Danish AWPers, like where are we looking at? Farley isn't having the hottest of goes right now. Do you think Lucky could be one of the names for the future? Because this is him going back to the drawing board, right?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when he was in Astralis, he clearly wasn't ready for the tier 1 play, right? Like that just wasn't the level that he's up to. In tier 2, he was doing really well in terms of stats. So I mean, for him to drop back and get a little bit more time there, maybe that's going to help him, you know, get ready for that next level next time that he gets the call up, if he does get the call up, right? That's kind of how I'm looking at it. I'm not super excited about him, you know, in the future, because we just haven't seen enough, or like not big enough of an output for us to believe that he has what it takes to be at this level, you know. So it's just something that I think is going to be good for him eventually, rather than, you know, being on a team that he can't fill the shoes, right? So just a good move for him, I suppose.
Okay. I imagine there's not too much to say about Lucky here, lads.
I just want to add, this is like a trajectory that rarely works out for the player. I think this is one of the things that in CS we've been, maybe not even CS in general, like when someone does this like massive jump up and then fails, it rarely turns out that they go back down and then like grind back up again. I feel like when the jump happens too early, that almost like ruins people's careers. And like people say this as a joke, Astralis ruined Lucky, but technically I feel like this is what happens a lot of these times. So that's just something to be conscious about when players get these offers in the future, when you're like, oh, what can go wrong with me joining this team that is like 3 levels above the level that I've been playing at? Like Mertz incoming, people saying. But like, there's a bunch of these players that did kind of a similar jump, Notan 1 league or whatever. He was just a stand-in.
Yeah.
But a lot of them that make the jump fail, and then going back to the level where they were, they don't really deliver, even on the promise that they had back in the day.
There's
when
too
they were
much
there.
hype around them.
Also,
they either
even
burn bright or burn out.
Even
Where's
the
Yuki, guys?
academy,
Where's Yuki? I don't see him.
He's
Is
playing
he here?
Valorant.
Is he under the table?
He's playing
Okay.
Valorant, mate. He's
Ah.
doing good over there.
academy
Valorant,
players as
actually.
well. When you look at the academy players, like maybe FaZe is doing okay, but most of them, even when they go to the main team and come back, it's not like they actually look any better than they were before. It's weird.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting phenomenon. Maybe something we can keep track of. I assume it's going to happen a bunch more times here. All right, let's get into some of the fun stuff. Let's get into Skinionaire. Hugo, you ready to help the people at home win some skins?
Oh, am I answering the questions? I'm down.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Who wrote the
I
questions
mean,
this evening, Prof?
I can't disclose these. This is top
But
secret.
can Striker help then? Did he
Yeah,
write the questions?
He can,
okay.
he can.
So we got 5 questions.
Prof wrote
all
the questions, essentially.
I don't know who it was.
5 questions, all multiple choice. You can have Striker help you along here if you'd like, Hugo. And every question you get correct moves the dial up, and the viewers at home get an opportunity to win a skin. Now, if you get all 5 correct, it's like a $50 skin. If you get somewhere in the middle, it's not $50 skin. Pretty simple stuff. Are you ready to get this one underway?
Let's go.
All right. Who wants to be a Skinionaire? Brought to you by Bitskins. Question 1. Type Bitskins in chat right now to enter the draw to win a skin. Lucas, can I have question 1, please? Fuck, Lucas.
If you ask nicely, please, you have to say please. The
Please,
magic
thank you.
word, chat.
Now.
You want the first question?
Now. The magic word is now.
Yes.
Are you sure you want it?
I would like the first question.
Okay, here comes the first question.
Here we go. Question 1. Which event will winning Elisa Masters? I can't believe that's even how that's even a word.
Poo.
Yeah.
Espoo.
Qualify.
Spanish poo.
Which event will winning Elisa Masters Espoo qualify a team for? Land Sweetland, I Am Katowice, or the Rio Major?
Easy. News came out today. Katowice, right?
All right, locking in B, and that will be the correct answer. 1 from 1 for Hugo B. Byron right now. As soon as Lucas reveals. There it is. Okay. Question 2. As Lucas, are you reading me all right? Do I have packet loss right now? Am I lagging? Question 2. Which team made top 4 of the Academy League for the first time in Season 4? Furia, Mouse, or Young Gods?
Furia, it would be Young Gods. Who? Young Gods isn't a team. Furia.
Godsend.
It's got to be Furia. I've seen Lau constantly tweet
right.
Brazil farming. I'm
Locking
going
in Furia.
And also, they bottomed every season I ever casted. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Locking it in. Furia. Correct answer is Furia.
Young
2 from 2
Gods is
so
a real
far.
team, though. It is also
Is it
Brazilian.
Godsend's
team.
Academy
Godsend.
team. Yeah.
Oh, is that what they called? Okay, well, luckily I'm ignorant. So I
All right. I wouldn't get that one right. I would have gone with Young
just saw you
Gods. I would
trolling
have
with like
invaded
Young
it.
Ninjas or something. Like that's not.
Nah, and they actually did copy the same.
They
Like,
could have been more creative, right? That was the thing we liked about the Academy League. They all came up with the creative names. All right. Question 3.
0-0 prospects.
What was the rating difference between Blame F and the second best Astralis player at Pinnacle?
You got to read the answers for me. I can't see them, Chad.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I was like, what am I doing? Like,
Well, now I
I'm
got the
reading the
screen
question
scrolled up.
right now. Like, what is my job again? I forgot that I have to kind of narrate this whole situation. Can we start the time again, Lucas, or are we going to lose the time here? I gotta censor myself
0.10.
here.
Okay.
You do. I'm sandbagging right now.
I'm just gonna go the largest. Whatever the largest gap is between Blame and everybody else, let's pick it. Largest.
That'll be
don't
C.
care.
That'll be C over 0.3.
D. Let's go with C. Yeah.
Locking in C. Correct answer
that
is
It is correct.
There we go.
Dude, I'm killing.
See, Lucas was lagging before, and now my brain's lagging, so it's kind of all come together.
All right.
all right.
Now chat have to send me $40 skins, or I start throwing here.
Oh,
I need to make some
shit.
profit.
Damn, boys. We haven't had this before. Trade link in the chat. All right, question 4. Who was the highest rated from the following players at Get Dubai? Rez, Torji, or Neofrag?
I mean, I didn't watch it, but I know Nip won it, so I'm gonna go with Rez.
Okay. I like the logic. Striker, do you have anything you want to add?
I mean, I know Res was big in some of the matches I saw, but I might have just seen the ones where he was really big, so I can't really say. I don't know.
All right, we're going with Hugo's gut here. A, locked in. Correct answer is A. 4 from 4 now.
Okay,
go.
pressure's
This is
on.
a clean sweep. 5 from 5 on the docket here this evening. It's going to be a Monday night hot with skins. Let's get into question 5. Which young Swede is part of Eyeballers?
Oh,
is it
easy.
Chauzy, Sapek, or Rolf?
It's Sapek, and we called him the Cringe Lord when he played for Young Ninjas, because that guy is, he's really, it was a compliment. It doesn't sound like a compliment. That was a compliment. He's really, really good. He's really, really annoying. He will hold an angle until you fall asleep. It's Sapek. Easy,
Okay.
$50. Shout out Bitskins.
Locked him in. And correct. Confidence in Hugo. 5 from 5 here this evening. What a showing, no doubt. The fans at home are going wild here. They cannot believe it.
One of the
Crazy
most
skins.
dominant performances in Who Wants to Be Skinionaire.
I can't even see the answers. I'm just nailing it, guys.
And
I'm here all
the
week.
winner of the skin, thanks to Hugo B. Byron, is Invalid Simp TV. Congratulations to Invalid Simp TV. Our simps will reach out to your simps and we'll get you a TV. All right, so that's Who Wants to Be a Skinionaire. Hugo absolutely smashed it.
Thank you.
And now we're going to get into a bit more chit chat here, everybody. Now, I have an image that I need to upload onto the internet to give you, Lucas. What is the best? Can I send it to you on the Discordia and then you bring it up for everybody?
There's a yes.
He said yes. Okay. Hello, Lucas. I am currently talking to you on TeamSpeak. Here is an image I would like you to bring up. Okay, 1 second. Let me just make sure that he gets the image, everybody. We just have to take this step at a time around here. All right, Lucas, can you see this image that I have created?
Not yet.
Okay, well, when you can.
This is such a big. But what a suspense.
When you
They're
can.
going to
when
pay you the big
can.
bucks, Chad. You're making graphics now. You're going to start producing. Take his
It's
job.
crazy. It's crazy. It's crazy. Look,
Has it
there's
been
a lot.
sent on your side yet?
It has now.
There.
Malta internet. Malta
There we go.
internet.
I didn't hit enter.
Across the ocean.
I do that all
one
the
of the
time,
most
honestly.
important things to do is hitting enter.
I do that all the time, honestly. Really.
Okay, guys. Well, what we're about to discuss right here is kind of, I guess, we're going to take the pulse of where Counter-Strike is like right now, right? Like the landscape they're in right now, how things are currently framed. Because when we talk about, you guys did Dallas last week. We were going to talk about GET, and we're going to talk about the Pinnacle Cup this week. We're going to talk about Blast, which is going on this week as well, right? We're going to talk about all this stuff. But I want to kind of talk about where this all fits in to the grand scheme of Counter-Strike. Lucas, do you have this to bring up right now? Bring this little graphic up for me right here. This is the one that I was working in on Paint. Now, I don't know how well you guys at home can see it.
I
don't know
can
how
see
well
it
you
really
can.
well here
I can
as
see
well.
it pretty well.
I'm waiting for the
Okay.
stream to catch up.
Okay, that's all right. But you'll get there. It's all right, Hugo. So basically, we started off the year coming into 2022. Navi was the best team in the world. They won the first major back in 2 years. Simple was best player of the world. It's Navi. You know, they're about to solidify themselves an era as they go on to win all the events to come. They're going to win Katowice. They're going to win the next major. Oh my God, Navi are fucking amazing. That's how 2022 started, right? Right. There was a whole bunch of roster changes and other things going on there that were cool too. But then we started in January where we had the Blast Premier Spring Groups. That's how the year started, right? Bit of a soft entry for everybody out of the player break, could play some groups, all good, right? No high consequence Counter-Strike immediately. Then we quickly followed on and we were in Katowice, and that was a big event. It was like, okay, this is the chance for Navi to come through and remind us all that they're the best team in the world, right? And win this event. But then obviously the war happened. That didn't happen. FaZe with ROPS versus G2. It gave us a lot of hope about the likes of G2 and FaZe. We're like, fuck yeah. Strike is getting really excited. International teams are on the menu. Monacy looked really good in like debut on stage. He looked good, right? For a young kid on stage. Then we go into Pro League and FaZe continue just to chug along in a studio environment land. You know, arenas aren't back, but they're chugging along in the studio environment. FaZe win that one over ENCE. And now we're thinking, okay, FaZe and ENCE, more international teams. Things are looking pretty cool. Navi is still struggling, but we go into the major. We go into the RMRs. Everybody we expect to get through the RMRs pretty much goes through the RMRs. Then we're in May. Then the major happens. Then FaZe win the major, and they solidify the fact that they are the number one team in the world and the major champions. Okay, so that's kind of how the year's like floated to this point with the big storylines. Now, in Counter-Strike, in my mind, and I'm happy for you guys to bring this up, in the main storyline, the top pegging storyline in a year of Counter-Strike is who wins the major or the next coming major, or who just won the major, like it's the major winners, that's our main focus, alongside of who is the best team in the world. And those two things aren't always mutually exclusive. We don't always have like an Astralis situation, right? Like you can win the major, but someone else can be winning all the other events or whatever and like beat it, but they just won that. You know, that's a possibility. Right. But we have those two goals: being the best in the world consistently, where we need to be reminded of greatness often as you win like a Dallas and you go on to win a Pinnacle Cup and you go on to win a Blush. Like that's how you build like a big portfolio and a resume and everything, right? We're at the point right now where FaZe are the major champion. They're the best team in the world. But I want to throw this open to everybody. They just lost in Dubai. They just lost in Dallas, right? Counter-Strike right now, is there like a mega clear number one? Do you think it's super clear at the moment? Do you think it's really competitive? What do you guys think where we're at the moment in Counter-Strike? It's a big question.
I don't know.
Let's go for our guest.
Yeah, I think it is clear. I think FaZe, at least for right now, like right this second, I think FaZe are undoubtedly the best. Like it's always hard to keep it up. Navi were obviously in the conversation to be that other team, that next team, that competing team. But now that they've not fallen apart, but probably are going to go through some complete changes and structural changes. They, I imagine, aren't going to come in looking super, super hot and be competitive with FaZe. G2 have been extremely underwhelming. Astralis and Vitality just both really poor this year. Neither of them have even beaten a top 10 team in months. I don't know who would even be in the conversation except for FaZe right now. Maybe I'm missing an obvious one. Like, okay, Cloud9, sure, but they did well in Dallas, but I think obviously the stage probably pumped them up a little bit. We've all seen the inverse when they were at Katowice, and obviously there's a lot going on there. But when the entire audience is cheering for FaZe over when they were Gambit there, like they just fell apart, man. They look completely terrible. I think actually here's a controversial take. I think the only other team that you can maybe make an argument for could be competitive is a team like Heroic. Obviously there are rumors on the line there. They might be making changes. I don't know what's going on with that. Maybe we'll get into it later. But Heroic, we've always, and I've been guilty of this, like pushing the storyline of, oh, these guys fall apart in stages, and they do. But if you look at especially the last 3 stage events they played in, Katowice, they lost to FaZe in the semi. They went straight to semis from groups. They lost to FaZe in the semi-final. FaZe went on to win the event. Both majors, they lost to a grand finalist. Okay, yeah, against G2 in the semi at Stockholm, it wasn't great, but they showed up in that game against Navi in quarters in Antwerp. I think they did really, really well. They made a 30-round Ancient game that they could have 2-0'd the series in. They lost in the third map pretty dominant, but I think Heroic, especially if there are changes that will lift them up a tier or improve their performance, I think they could be the only team that maybe would compete with FaZe. But at least for me right now, FaZe clear favorite, no one close.
Yeah, I think what we can do with this, right? Because the concept I'm trying to get with this is where we're at right now in the season, right? Yeah. So we just came out, we had Dallas, FaZe lost, but that could be like post-major hangover, right? There was a nice article that I read that was at esports.gg. A gentleman did an article over there, I believe it was. I don't know if you guys did one or not.
If you're talking about the one about like previous major winners and how they fare at the next event.
Yeah, I think it was only one team had won the next event after the major that they had attended.
That was Navi last time,
Yeah, and that right there I thought was like, so it could definitely just be like part of the post-major hangover situation, right? And then we just had 2 events where the teams that were kind of stronger in the online era, like Cloud9 winning Dallas, and then you had Heroic winning in the Pinnacle Cup, and obviously we had GET as well with NIP. These all tell like different stories for these teams of where we're at right now. So bring that graphic back up just for a second, Lucas, because with this on screen, right? So we're in the period after. I need the rest of it, Lucas. We're in the period after like May, right? After the major, with all these like smaller events that mean different things to different teams. Like FaZe losing in Dallas, for example, isn't the end of the world for them because their focus now is probably on Cologne. What happens between now and Cologne for FaZe is probably not a huge deal. Like they're already qualified for the global finals or world finals, sorry, for Blast, for example. And then the next big one is Cologne, and the next big one after that is the major, right? Like there's Pro League, there's Blast groups. When you look at a team like ENCE, for example, they're slowly grinding. So they're going to want more and more stage experience. So all of these teams have something different to play for in this current period that we're in right now, right? That only the best teams in the world are trying to play to win Cologne, but there's still a lot of teams over these next couple of events that have some shit to prove, right? So I kind of wanted to use this framing of that there as we now go in to talk about the events that we just saw unfold, right? Yeah. Because
I want to add something on FaZe when you finish. So.
Go for it. No, go for it. Chuck it in.
What Hugo said is completely accurate. I think you can't say that they're not the #1 team. It's super clear that they are, but they're also not in let's say an era moment yet, right? And they also don't feel unbeatable. They don't have that aura around them, right? And they did prove that in Dallas. We can write off Dallas. Like, I think that's, for anyone that follows CS for an extended period of time, you don't really make a big fuss out of that result. They still made top 6. Like, usually major winners just crash out in groups, right? So this is an okay performance. They didn't play against some super tough opponents in the group either, but still, like, they did okay. I think for them now, the question is, can they build that kind of invincible aura around them, and can they build into like a era style team, get towards the Grand Slam? This is where they are right now, but it doesn't mean that we'll have it, right? There are the teams that can upset them and beat them on a one-off tournament basis. That's the thing. Like, Cloud9 can beat them now that they proved it. Heroic, I don't know. We didn't really see a lot of games between them. ENCE, we saw beat them multiple times, right? So even though they're objectively the favorite, they're the best team overall. If you're going to pick one team, it's going to be FaZe. You can see a bunch of teams that can beat them, right? And NAVI, we don't know where they are right now, but you can't write them off either, right? They're still playing quite well, and they have Simple. So they're like, that's 4 teams that you feel like can put up a good fight against them.
Yeah, I maybe started a bit ahead of ourselves with the FaZe conversation, because it's something that we definitely could have had during the blast stuff. So, but maybe we just finish it now and we can touch on it in the blast stuff if we have to. But with what Prof's saying there, Striker, and I don't mean this by your rankings or ESL's rankings or whoever the fuck's rankings, but do you think that FaZe need to win blast this week to consolidate that like world number 1 spot? If they lose to like ENCE again here, for example, like, I'm not saying they're not the world number 1, they are, and they're the major champion, and as I outlined, there's 2 goals and they have both of those goals right now. But do you think for them to kind of put that conversation like away, they have to consolidate by winning like this blast event, now that there's a couple of teams with stand-in situations? It's not necessarily the strongest field. What do you think?
I actually do think that that's the case. Also because of the ENCE conversation specifically, because I think, NAVI, obviously they could be competitive. I'm not saying that they can't. Obviously they have Blade still, who will probably put together a lot of the plan. And, he used to put it forward to Boomich, and I'm sure that they worked together on it, but I'm sure Blade was kind of like the mastermind behind it, right? And Boomich was the caller, more like how the fuck do you say it? Executing. There you go. I couldn't get the intonation right. The plan, right? So he's obviously still going to do that, and obviously Electronic's smart enough in the game to be able to execute it to a certain degree, right? What we don't know is how much the roles are going to mesh and things like that. I wouldn't be too worried about game plan wise and stuff like that. It's more like, where does SDY fit in role wise, for me at least. But ENCE are definitely come up as kind of like the second favorite to blast. And if they were to lose the event to ENCE in a grand final, then you have a pretty clear contender to the number 1 spot, right? They're the second best team, and they've obviously ramped up. They've been super consistent, top 4 at every event. They're just missing that title, right? And this could be like the first title that prompts ENCE into challenging FaZe for the number 1. So I feel like FaZe do need to win this event to kind of prevent those talks from starting to happen, right? Are FaZe really the FaZe really the best team?
Yeah, and we want to be in like we haven't had like, well, I guess the Navi one didn't last for that long, right? Where they were winning a bunch of stuff, but to have it competitive for a while, like this could be the start of that. Like the Navi stuff, maybe they were dominant for that period, but now FaZe come in, they have like a little period, or maybe they don't have a little period. Maybe it gets shaken up now. Now let's turn our attention to the next topic, because I derailed us here a little bit, but the framing of this is what I want to use. So Heroic won Pinnacle Cup. If you guys didn't catch it, it was against Astralis in the grand final. It was the Danish Derby. It was the second time consecutively now that Heroic have beaten Astralis, and they've, with this kind of configuration, they met each other 3 times. And the first time was in Blast Copenhagen, where Astralis won, and then we obviously had all the shit talk at the breakfast last time round at Pro League, and then that's where Heroic ended up winning. And then Heroic have won this time in a grand final in Lund, Sweden, which is basically just across the road from Denmark. So in terms of the news and stuff, I had a quick look on some of the Danish media sites. There was some of the news about it there, but it's a really big deal for Heroic to win a game like this. And Hugo, you were there in Lund, Sweden. You saw Heroic win. Best Danish team, no question?
Yeah, no question right now.
And Stown, best Danish player, or is there a conversation to be had against Blame, because he got the MVP of the event? Where are you putting this one?
Yeah, Blame's sick. I mean, maybe this is a whole nother conversation, but like talking about Astralis's problems and Blame and where he fits into them, like he's sick on CT side, but Can you put a player as the best player in the country if they're not winning tournaments? I guess it's the question there, or at least not making runs in tournaments, because Astralis haven't been throughout the creation of this five, at least ever since they swapped out Lucky and put Farley in. I go with Stan for now, but blame certainly in the conversation.
Okay. What do you boys make of this year, Prof? How are you thinking with the Heroic? Because there's the rumors that Hugo brought up earlier about the roster changes. They just won a title. 4 of their 5 players were in the top 9. The one that was not was Refresh. I should have just said the top 10, but they made up the 4 of the 9 players in the top 9, and then Refresh is outside of that, out of 41 players in total, because we had Keto standing for Crimbo. So that's really good for Heroic, and obviously they won the event, so it's going to make sense. But everybody had moments, right? Shush had some good games. Stan had some good games. Cadian had some good, like Tessus had some good moments. It wasn't just 1 or 2 players. It was a good team effort.
That's usually how it goes with Heroic, though, right? It's like they very rarely have one guy.
This is where we're going with it, right? But Refresh, again, you can't deny that he isn't contributing. Like his stats are like, we don't just want to look at stats, but as far as the contributions go, like is he? Because now that there's rumors about them wanting to replace a player, it would be most likely be him, right?
Yep. I mean, that's what I was saying last episode. I think I would be shocked if he sticks around for more than the rest of the first season,
even with the trophy win. You think they don't replace
I think
him?
this is obviously, if you look at the level of this event, it's not like they had to beat anybody really that strong going into it. They were already the favorites in it. It's not these teams that Heroic struggle against. It's breaking through into the elite that Heroic historically struggled against, because as we were saying, they lost the previous major final to G2, or not the final, the semifinal to G2, and then they lost to NAVI in the last one. They just can't beat the best teams, but they obviously always are in deep runs. It's just they can't get past that. This obviously the best team that they had to beat here. I think you would have to argue as big, even though they played with a stand-in, given how problematic Astralis is like the last few months have been, right? So like that's nowhere near the level of competition that we expect Heroic to want to be in and to be able to win events in.
Sure. Okay.
I think you have to take into account like 2 factors when you think like, is this happening? Why would this happen right now? They're a pretty good team. First of all, Heroic historically have made moves when they were pretty good. Like their last 2 roster changes, when they got Shush and Refresh, were when they were pretty good. They made the changes, and it was almost kind of, they did super well at the first event, then had a small dip, like the post honeymoon dip, and then came back and were pretty consistent since then. So they obviously have the history of doing stuff like this. And the second thing is like Yabi is one of the best talents in Denmark for a long time, on a team that's not a team anymore, that needs to be sold, and is like, okay, this is our opportunity to get him now. If we don't get him, someone else is going to get him. He's going to go to Astralis when his contract runs out, and let's just buy him right now. And from what we know, the buyouts for these players from Copenhagen Flames aren't insane. Like they're very reasonable. So if you're thinking like, okay, Refresh he's maybe not the worst player in the world. It's not like his career is done or something, but it's not like you also have to wait for a player to be like a massive, super big issue and like an obvious bottleneck of your team to make a change, right?
Sure.
I think Heroic managed pretty well. He's not a player that's like his career is over or anything. But if they want to be a number 1 team in the world, then you have to make some of these upgrades for like kind of an okay player, for a player that is really good and could potentially be even better. So I feel like for me, it's a really good change. Obviously risky, as every change is, right? You always
but
have
they could
to
just put him on the
line.
bench, right? They don't have to completely get rid of him. They could just put him on the bench and bring in Yavi and see how it goes, right? So that's always a possibility.
That's true. But I feel like it's gonna be, I feel like it's a decent fit. I think Yabi for Zipnex would be a better fit. Even that would make a lot more sense.
Not getting any conversation, right? Why do you think that is?
Well, I don't know.
Probably too young still. Kind of like probably needs a bit more. Just a bit
maybe
more time
roles
to
as
play.
well.
He's a sick aimer, man. I think he's gonna have. There's gonna be a lot to Xiphon in the future. Like I don't think when you think about the team that they have at the moment right now, Roy has a lot of good positions as a rifler, right? I think Xiphon's like a pretty good rifler, and you're right, he's very young, probably needs a lot more experience or whatever. But I think that Xiphon doesn't get a lot of shine. When I watch him play, he seems like a really good aimer to me. Like he seems like he has really solid aim. But yeah, I think this is an interesting one. So if we use the framework we were talking about before, the next big thing that everybody's looking for is the major, right? When you go from major to major,
Cologne, and then the major.
But Heroic, if they're going to remove right now, as of June 13, 2022, Cologne is in a month. If you're going to remove a player, I don't think you're doing that with the intention to win Cologne, are
Right.
you?
Or
Like, is it enough time?
honeymoon phasing?
Maybe, right? But that's the like. But would you say that a month is enough time to get a team ready to win an event like Cologne? What if framed it that way?
No. That it's definitely not going to give you your peak. That's for sure.
They're probably not looking to win it. Like, you got to be a little realistic. I wonder what you guys
It's
think.
enough time for the major, right? It's enough time to ramp him for the major.
Yeah, I wonder what you guys think. Like, is Hooksy, Zyphon refresh a core if this deal goes through? Like, it would be nice to see if Copenhagen Flames didn't fall apart and you had like a 1-to-1 swap of Yabi and refresh, but obviously a bit late for that one now. Do you think like a Zyphon Hooksy refresh, is that a Danish core they could build around, or even add like more EU talent to? Or do you think they'll wait for more or better offers?
I mean, there's history there, obviously, between Hooksy and Refresh, so it would make sense to me perfectly. But obviously, it depends on whether Heroic are going to keep Refresh on. We're assuming this is Refresh.
To Liquid
instead of Shocks.
Yeah,
not bad.
I'm trying to work out like what how
the Reddit thread?
Yeah, I think so. I probably stole that opinion.
I think it was downvoted to hell for some reason.
But I just like you're throwing out places.
I mean, does it excite me? Not really.
No, but
like it would be. I would say it would be an upgrade, but like, is it really that big of an upgrade to just instantly make Liquid a title contender? Obviously not.
What player to Liquid in that position would make them a title contender immediately?
Ridiculous.
You know what I mean? It's like there's not a whole lot you can do to make people too excited about a team. Like
but I would assume Liquid would just go for the biggest fish in the pond, right? Like not just make sure that they get the big gun, not just have to.
I get what you're saying.
But yeah, whatever. I'm missing.
I get what you're saying.
If we're talking ex Copenhagen Flames players, I do want to push some Harry propaganda here that you may have heard him say before. I think Astralis' biggest problem is they don't have an entry, right? Or not that they don't have an entry, it's the config is having a mare.
They have too many entries.
No, not even like obviously Blame's like opening kill stats are really, really good, but that's so based off his CT sides. Like T sides, half the time I'm watching, or at least Pinnacle for Astralis, like half the time when they're you give Astralis a 5v4, 4 guys will be walking out one side. Blame will be doing, he'll be happy. He'll be on the other side of the map, lurking out a ramp, like with 15-20 seconds to go and getting picked. But on T side, like, oh yeah, config, if he's entering, if he's showing the form that he's shown in previous years, like this team could be really, really good. But he's not. He's having trouble. He knows he's having trouble. Harry always pushed the idea of having Roy in this team, like getting Roy into Astralis. I always bought in. I kind of like the idea. Really solid entry player. Gonna do what you tell him. Gonna run through a smoke. I think
it's
Astralis
like to push that narrative, man.
Yeah, it's a bit late, sadly. I mean, he's been pushing it for months, so I just wanted to get that out there. But yeah, it's a bit of a shame that because I think if config was performing, this wouldn't even be really an argument needed to be made. But you just don't really have an entry player on T side for Astralis. They never put Farley in 5-on-4s or let him take 5-on-4s, and Blame lurks too much T side for my liking.
Astralis probably need 2 roster changes if they want to be like a champion. Well, I don't know. I think a championship contender team is maybe even too much at the moment, right? To say I don't think the team as they have it right now is going to be winning trophies.
I mean, we can swap to them because like we obviously talked about Heroic, and then Astralis is the team in the grand final, and like what people are kind of expecting now is Valde went to the bench and now he's going to come into Astralis whenever his contract runs out, because this is kind of the Astralis way. But like this doesn't excite me at all. I'm also not like a player that's super hyped above Valde. Never have been. Even when he was at his best, I didn't really get sold on it overall. But now it's like he's an okay player, but like, how does this now fundamentally change the lineup? I think
it is a direct
one's
upgrade,
not enough. But one's not enough.
Who would you change, Chad?
But like, well, I don't know who I would change. I would say like the dream scenario for them would be like all this device stuff rectifies itself and get like device and someone. There's so many talented Danish players, right? Like I think this is the thing that they might need to take I would take Zyphon. But Zyphon and device,
really
like obviously,
Zyphon, huh?
Yeah. Well, like why not though? Like he's not a bad player.
I have to pay more attention to him. He's just one of those guys that like, of course you notice like when he makes a big play, but he's just like never really been massively on my radar whenever we talk about Copenhagen Flames, right? Like, it's usually other people that kind of take the spotlights.
Yeah.
So it's kind of difficult for me to tell whether like
But
Zypher would
certain
be a
players
good
get
candidate.
more conversation because like the positions
No,
and
of
roles
course,
they
that
play,
makes
right?
sense.
So like, but I don't know. Just when I watch him, like when I just like watch his POV, I'm like, this is good. Like I like what I'm seeing here. But I don't know. It's just like Astralis right now have nothing to lose, right? Like what are you doing? What are you holding on to right now? And they're the 12th best team in the world somehow, right? But like, what are they holding on to right now? There's Blame got MVP of this event that we're talking about here, right? He continues to perform really well. Some situations, you know, maybe he lets him go in first, but he's not just hard baiting his team every round. Like that narrative is dead. He's just the only one getting kills consistently. Like that's just the truth.
I mean, one thing
You're not going to win a game like that.
One thing I should mention is that Zipex, as much as of course they've been playing slightly worse competition, and it's not like that's like the biggest tell of whether he's improving in terms of form, but he has been looking better in terms of statistically and just the output wise. He's definitely been looking better throughout the past, let's say, couple of events. Like he's actually been relatively stable. If you look at his, especially if you look at his
second best player at Pinnacle Cup.
Yeah, the final of Pinnacle was just Zip and Blame versus all of Heroic and the rest of Astralis.
Yeah, but it's just like they did play like a bunch of teams that are decent. They played Heroic, they played Big, they played like G2, and in that time, Zipex has been looking better than he usually does. So maybe he is back on the upswing, and he's found a way to slot in a little bit better. And this is a way for Astralis to get a little bit more confidence with this lineup. But obviously, they probably needed to win the event for that.
Zipex Dallas 1.08 and Pinnacle 1.05. Before that, he had like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 events in the red. A lot of them 0.97, 0.96. But still, that's like 15 events in a row. We're not positive in terms of the rating. Pressing, honestly, to see.
Yeah. So like that's what I'm saying though, right? Like you can clearly see that there's some level of improvement on his side. So maybe that's the first step for Astralis to become at least, a team that can consistently at least fight for playoffs finishes. Maybe not go deep every time or whatever, but at least there's a way for them to have enough output to actually match up some against some of the top 10 teams, So that's been their biggest problem, I think, pretty much from the start of the year. Or even from the end of last year when they didn't have config on, really. Like they just didn't have enough players show up. Like they even acknowledged it themselves. They just don't have individual players consistently showing up. Yep. So that's like once they have that, that's kind of like the first step for them to be competitive again. Obviously, still a long way for them to go from there. I fucking hated their Ancient T side. I don't know how you go from being like touted as one of the best Ancient teams and then put up the T side they did against Heroic. Like Heroic they were super on. Like you could see every single player that went into a duel, he was super confident, just like instant headshots, stuff like that. Heroic were really on point. All 5 of their players on that Ancient CT side, but still, like when you were looking at Astralis, basically they won the first 3 rounds, and then across the entire T side, then they won one more round, and most of them went in a way where there was no idea, like there was no real way for them to even win the round because they didn't even try 1B execute. The one round that they won was basically just Farley just like randomly finding 2 kills with a Galil on B side, and that's it. That's like the only round they won and the only round where they had a chance. I hear
I think it's coming from Prof.
Yeah. I'm gonna check it out.
Okay. Well, you're gonna be okay
I
now.
think it's a monster coming out of my like sink or something. That's how it sounds.
Oh, there's
his
something
dishwasher's on fire or something.
Yeah, that might be it. Like I did turn on my dishwasher. I'm just gonna see if everything's
see what's going on over there, man. You don't want to have a leak in the house. That's not what anybody wants.
I just really hated watching that match. I was like, how are you a team? Like, why? How do you have no ideas on what to do on T side? Like
they were giving them the full court press though, Striker. They were giving them the full. Mate, when you see it, there's one round. Like they started 4B. I think Heroic missed one of their mollies, but they're smoking deep doors. The intention was to triple molly B lane. Like they were just being one of the.
I mean, Heroic did play that
fucking ancient
really
stats.
well. Like you could tell that they were also super on point with like anti flashes. Like you could tell every time Astralis made up some ground, Heroic had something ready. They always were super dynamic. So obviously, I do want to give credit to Heroic for that CT side because it was great. But like a lot of the time, I was just thinking like, who's doing something? Like I want to see Astralis try something. Like they're just standing behind smokes, not even trying to flash through, like make a big play through, whatever like that. I just see no idea behind what they're doing. So I'm like, why?
Leaves you wanting a little bit more, I imagine.
That's for sure.
All right, well, we got Prof back. Let's get into our N1 moment here, shall we?
There we go.
Lucas, let's get into the N1 moment. I don't know what you need to pull up, Prof. You want to give this one the context. So
Well,
perfectly
the
designed
kind of
as?
the cool and the nice moment of the week. I was looking through not a lot happened, not a lot of cool, sexy storylines, but this was one of them. It was obviously just the return of Forest to a not a tier 1 but a tier 2 event, kind of standing in for Fnatic, and had that great opening game. The clip that we have here is like a triple entry here on Banana, which is pretty nice. And just an overall nice experience. Everyone loves Forest, right? And we like to see him play well. It just continues this like crazy narrative that we have. Snacks coming back, and now it's Forest. Who knows who's next? Maybe SPUNJ comes back. Who knows?
Probably not, but you never know. You never know with these things. But no, it's good to see. Forest is 34 years young now. Everybody's still fragging away. I think that's the thing. Like you could plug him into a team and you would expect pretty decent results out of him. I'm not saying like in a top 10 necessarily, but you could definitely find a name here and whack him on a team, and I'm sure that you would get him to produce and he could offer a lot. So that's Forest is definitely kept on kicking. He hasn't slowed down. Also, it always is good to see him still playing, a player who I guess maybe our newer viewers would not be too familiar with his exploits, right? But and I mean exploits in a good way, not a bad way. Just being one of
Probably a
the
player that they must know the name and think he was amazing, but not really know anything about him.
don't appreciate it exactly.
Right,
Yeah. Okay. Well, that is the N1 moment brought to you by N1 Bet. Gamble responsibly. Let's keep moving forward here. We're going to talk about the team Forest was playing for, Fnatic. Now, we don't know who their fifth is. Oh, never mind. This is it, everybody. We're going to talk about it after the ad break. Be right back.
The Xtrfy M42 RGB, what a fun mouse with 5 colorways, lightweight frame at just 59 grams with the swappable backplate to suit your grip style, the sensor, the easy core, the smooth skates, and driverless control for RGB and DPI is why you should check out the M42 RGB down below.
Buy and sell your skins now. Easy, fast, and safe. The best skin site. Credit card deposits and withdrawals, instant cash out methods. Get the best deals. Quick, simple, reliable. Bitskins.com.
And we're back and we have breaking news, Prof. What's the breaking news?
Oh no, this is I don't know if this is public yet, so I don't know if I can.
We don't have breaking news.
I mean, this has officially.
I came into my DMs. So,
Okay.
I mean, okay, but it says we just officially. So like official is a pretty.
If they reached out to you, can you say? Do they want an article? Can we what like is that because they want you to write the news?
Can I?
Let's do this live.
It says it on the tweet and on Twitter.
It does?
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. So now you can give the breaking news.
Is Godsend officially put Phelps on the transfer list since he has recovered and is ready to compete again. Interested orgs can reach out to me, for example. This is from Godsend CEO and co-founder Henrik. I'm not gonna Brent. Henrik.
Okay.
So shout out to him and go over there. Maybe Imperial can reach out to them and go do like the full on kick out Vinny and bring in Phelps. What do you think about that one?
That would be
Godsend might need him anyway. Aren't the rumors that their whole teams or half their teams getting bought out anyway? Or is that don't know if that's happening?
That is the rumor.
That is the
There's
rumor.
definitely a report, seems to be pretty tangible almost.
oh
Think if true.
tangible. Okay, now we're throwing the big words around here this evening. Yeah, interesting breaking news, but not something I guess really too far around the Pinnacle Cup. Now let's look at what we saw with Fnatic. They had a stand, and it was Forest. We just spoke about this with the N1 moment. But I guess the more exciting thing is they looked all right.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we don't know who their fifth is going to be, do we? Does anyone know?
Nope.
Rumor is Heap.
Yeah, that's a rumor.
But wasn't that because of the wording in the article? And someone was like, oh, didn't they type it so then it was Heap's ex-teammate or Forrest's ex-teammate? And that's why people thought it was Heap, because people didn't understand that they were talking about Khan's ex-teammate of Forrest.
Right.
No, I think there were other things that implied that, but
Okay.
But yeah, but obviously it was Karn's ex-teammate. I don't know why would they yeah.
Because people probably didn't know that Forrest did.
There was a lot of people saying like, "Oh my god, I can't believe he's playing for Fnatic now after NIP." Is like, it's kind of funny. Like,
yeah, we did this storyline before. It was actually called When He Went to NIP.
Yeah.
Now we're doing it back on the other foot here. But yeah, they look all right. It's exciting. It's going to be exciting to see who the 5th ends up being. I guess we'll find that out pretty soon, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
When are we going to see Fnatic play again next? Do they have a tournament scheduled in soon? Are they in this Rubeck Cup? Let me have a quick look. They're not in the Rubeck Cup. That's a bit of a problem.
I don't think they'll need to grind for a bit to get any decent tournaments.
Yeah, they're not in the play-ins, so I guess we'll see them in some smaller online tournaments coming forward.
Republic and then ESL Pro League Season 16 after the player break.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Hugo, you were there. Any takeaways with this Fnatic roster?
A lot of firepower, a lot of firepower. Messi in-game leading. I'm not sure.
Interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, that is a strange one. I'm a bit worried on one hand because he has been part of so many unstable rosters, we'll say, right, in Cloud9 and obviously in the old Fnatic roster. And despite that, he's always been the guy performing. He's always been the highest rated player or second highest rated player. So taking over in-game leading, at least he's got firepower around him. I kind of like that. You know, we already talked about Roy earlier, but I'm a big Roy fan. I think Roy's really good. Crims is in great form. So in terms of if Messi takes a backseat individually, I still think this team could do well. But at the same time, unproven in-game leader, I think Keith is going to have a lot to do there. On the bright side, Messi played with Alex for so long, right, in Cloud9 and in Fnatic. So I'm sure he's got a lot of ideas there. I don't know what's going on with Alex. I don't know if there's anything there.
He's looking for a team, I think.
Yeah, he's looking for a team.
Yeah, I think
okay.
he made a tweet or a tweet longer or some shit when the whole Fnatic thing ended.
Yeah, I think we have to give a Fnatic a bit of time, right? I would hesitate to call that an event a honeymoon event. They only got 2 maps,
and they had a stand-in.
And they had a stand-in. They did well, but yeah, let's see what Messi can do in a few months.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm kind of not the biggest fan of the Messi transitioning to IGL thing. Might be great for the future, but it's just yeah, not happy with taking a player that was on a good trajectory and then just like snap completely different role.
I think the framing with these teams, just to keep it with that little graphic that we had before, these guys are in the lead up, but same as the Party Astronauts. This is a different conversation, I suppose. But Fnatic, for example, are currently putting the building blocks together to make sure that they can qualify at the next RMR event to qualify for the major. That would be what their runway looks like for this team, right? Just spend some time playing. You're going to come out of the player break. You're going to play Pro League. Then you're going to play the RMRs. Then it's going to be the major. That's how it's going to look for them. So the next... For this team, if you're a Fnatic fan, the next 3 to 4 months is them going to be grinding and gearing up for that and then doing well there. That's all their eggs in that basket for this year. That's how you could frame it for Fnatic. But there's EG squadron situation. Did you guys have a big conversation about the EG roster 15-man thing last week?
Not really. We just skimmed over it a bit, yeah.
Okay. Well, I've been thinking about this, and I think a lot of people will probably think my reaction would be, what the fuck is this? What the fuck are EG doing? This is crazy. This is silly. Da, da, da. I'm not going to knock it. And the reason I'm not going to knock it is because I'm going to wait and see. Because then if it does turn out shit, then at least we'll have the evidence to say this was a dumb idea. But right now, I don't have the evidence to say this is a dumb idea. It likely won't work. I think I read like a Q&A thing. There was something where they were answering like what they were going to do. One team will be overseas playing. They can play in different events, right? They can all be playing in multiple. You could have EG playing at 3 different events on the same weekend, technically. They're not in the same event.
They've said that at every turn, man. They really like the idea of having 3
but they could, right?
Competing at the same. Yeah.
Technically, they could.
Technically,
but at the majors, they all can't play at the majors. That's the issue they're going to have, right? So, but there was something else I was reading in this. They're going to work with the players at home and see which configurations of the team works best. Yeah, let's see. Like, it may be it's an interesting concept, and North America's in a pretty shitty spot. So why not, right? Maybe they pull something good out of this. I heard some rumors about the new guys that got added to, they didn't like negotiate like a buyout clause or something, which just sounded so crazy that I don't even know if I could believe it was true. But I heard like the 2 new squads that got signed to EG didn't like in their contracts negotiate like buyout stuff or anything properly, or they have, I don't know the exact wording, but either way, it didn't sound great. But what are we expecting from this team? Like, unless you grab a couple of players, are you talking, Lucas? What's up, mate?
So I was in Lund for a while, and
what did you hear,
got
man?
to talk with the EG guys. From my understanding, it is, I don't know if you guys literally just said that, but they work as 3 different lineups under the organization.
Well, we know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And from what I've heard, there's not, there's the possibility to change, in between players, but they have been brought in to play under those lineups.
Yeah,
So
for
the
now.
team.
For now, yeah.
Yeah.
But they did clearly say that like 6 months from now, whatever, they're going to start transitioning into more of a fluid situation.
Which is a good idea, because I don't think like either of these 3 teams are any good.
Yep.
Do you
Yeah,
think
I
they
think
could
maybe
build up more brands?
What?
Do you think they could build up like more brands? Like
Or brands?
Heroic and Astralis started out under like the same.
Yeah, but you can't
Right.
do that, right? Because here's the thing: you want to compete in majors. So the whole like there's no point having 3 teams. Back in the day, when I got signed to Renegades, we were going to be Liquid Europe. I've told this anecdote a bunch of times, right? I've told this story before. But one of the reasons that we didn't want to do it was because you can't compete in like the events, right? So one of the issues we had was we couldn't go to the ESWC event. They were going to send a North American team, so we couldn't go to that event. I was like, what's the point in that? We want to fucking compete. So like there's an issue like with what they're doing. It's great early just to have these 3 different rosters and give them all different opportunities as a team to see how good they can do in a short term. And when clearly that's not going to work, which we can all see clear as day that's not going to work, you grab the best parts of each of these teams and you try and configure a starting roster, a second roster, and a third roster. And then with the second and third rosters, they practice with each other at home. And then the second roster can be one that like you practice against the main roster with and shit. Like that's how this, in my mind, would likely be working in the future. Right,
Yeah,
but they go with that. Yeah, Hugo.
I spoke to them a bit in Inland, and like I got a couple of answers to a couple of questions. I also got more questions that I don't have answers to.
Okay.
So that's fun. But like right now, actually, right after Lund, the Party Astronauts and the Carpe Diem rosters are going to boot camp in North America altogether. Not the main EG roster. It's worth noting, 2 out of 3. So like they're gonna be working together a lot. Obviously, there is a clear disparity in skill and accomplishments between Party Astronauts and Carpe Diem, and obviously maybe an accomplishment for the main team, maybe not form right now. You could probably make an argument that PA are close, are nipping at the heels of the main EG team. But apparently, like the one thing I'm glad you're not anti this, Chad, because the one thing I think is cool is, especially around like last year and the last couple of years, people have been touting the storyline that EG, they don't care about CS, they're dropping all their rosters, and maybe there was some truth in there. But hey, more NA teams, more money in NA, more support, especially if these teams are going to be working together with each other. I think for me, the big question is what the hell is going on with the main EG team, because they're pulling out from Lund, which obviously, it is great for Party Astronauts to get the experience, go to Lund, get some officials, get some prac time in. But like, where the hell are we going to see this main EG team? Because, those kind of events, like tier 2 events in Europe where, the main EG roster would come in, they'd probably still get grouped given their current form. Like they need the experience just as much as Party Astronauts. So yeah, there's a lot of competitions. To compare it back to your Liquid Renegades thing, a few years ago there were way less tournaments, at least at the same time. Now there's a lot of leagues, there's a lot of circuits, there's a lot of routes, and so I'm sure everyone can have enough playtime, or hopefully everyone can have enough playtime, and all of that. But I just wonder, like, where main EG even going to play? Their form is so bad. Where are they going to get practice? They're not even boot camping with these other teams. I don't know what the hell this team's doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, go Striker.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear that the reason why they didn't go to Lund is because the team is probably in shambles, right? And they're trying to figure out if this is even the lineup that they want to play with. They just kicked the coach, and it seems like they're heading for more changes than just that. So why would you put a team that's not even going to be a team maybe 2 months down the line after the break to play in a tournament that maybe they're not going to care about at that time? So like, you might as well put one of your secondary rosters in that. I think that's a clear indication of more changes coming in that main roster.
Yeah. Okay. Let's jump into a couple of other notable names here. I'm going to give you each a name each, and we'll be quick on these because I don't think we need to spend too much time. Prof, you can do the honors here. Imperial.
Well, what is the?
What is there to say, really?
Lurpus's favorite term, regression to the mean. Was that it?
Okay.
Like, their results since the major have been kind of, well, even when you take the major into account and take all of these results and like draw a line, like an average between them, this is more in line with what we expected. Like this is kind of okay. These are these players. This is how they're doing. This makes sense, right? I think the major made little sense in terms of what they managed to accomplish. Of course, you can look into the team a bit deeper and try to analyze what went wrong at these events. But like they haven't done anything essentially since the major.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Done with Imperial. MIBR. You want to take them, Striker?
Yeah, I mean, I was we were talking just before this, and I was just looking at the stats, just trying to refresh my memory about what was happening. Obviously, and I first of all remember saying that the MIBR could be a sleeper team at Lund when we had the last show, so that didn't work
Good
out. They
job.
placed last. But the more interesting part about that team is they literally had one guy show up, and he has double the rating of anybody else at the entire event. Cello had like 1.34, was it? Or something like that, and everybody else is like below 0.7. So clearly, yeah, something went wrong there.
Yep. Yeah. And, all right. And finest for you, Mr. Hugo. Now they're just today ranked 19th in the world, but they had a decent showing at Pinnacle Cup, I would say.
No, they looked really good. I think finest are like the evidence of the post COVID tier 2 scene healing, right? Like we had, especially over the online era, 2020, even 2021, we didn't have many teams coming up from like the lower tiers of CS, mainly because there wasn't much competition outside of the big events. They didn't have these tier 2 lands, these smaller things. I think that's healing, and I think finest are evidence of it. They looked really good. I think Anarkez was in my head like the star of the show, the guy to look out for in the future. We've obviously seen him in previous teams. I was looking up his history earlier, and I was like, damn, I forgot this guy played in Secret with even players from now BNE, One Flatcher and Synopsy, right? So like,
was he at Hellraisers as well?
Yeah, he was in Hellraisers. Yeah, so he's been around the block, but in terms of experience, this guy hasn't even played LAN before. Like he's played local Israeli LANs back in 2018, 2019, but Pinnacle Cup I think was his first international European LAN, and he played really, really sick. In the heroic game, they completely avoided him. He was like going for 1-on-5s and killing 3 and losing it. But he did look super like mechanically skilled. He's the AWPer. I loved seeing him play. I think Finest is going to do great, especially. And the reason I made that like tier 2 scene point coming up as well is like to talk about maybe Ecstatic, another roster that are in the headlines. I don't know if that's something you guys want to talk about later. Maybe
when we get to question time, we can talk about that later. That might be a fun one right there. But this is an interesting team, right? For those who aren't too familiar with the players, MIBR, Imperial, you should be. But this roster has Twist of Fnatic fame, once upon a time, who's been just working over there within the Swedish scene. Like he's playing Pugs, he's grinding with this team. It has Plessen. That's a name that you guys would have heard before as well. And Kriaz, right? Shox is a name that's also been out there. He's an Estonian. And then the gentleman you were mentioning, Anak, has been around the traps as well. So it's good to see. And you mentioned healing, Hugo. I think that's important. I think also Counter-Strike now, or maybe even the world, because the type of events we've had back to back to back now have been arena events. We had the major straight into Dallas pretty much, right? That was like a week off or whatever, but it was into Dallas. And then we went to Dallas into 2 different locations. We had the one in Dubai. Obviously, there wasn't a big attendance there, but I don't think anybody expected different to that. And then the Lund event that had, they had a crowd, right? But now we're going into Lisbon in a couple of days' time. That's going to have a crowd as well. Like we're having different scales of events of different calibers in different studio environments or LAN environments, different crowd sizes all over the world again. So this is a good spot. We're going to hopefully get back into some more of that. Okay. That's those 3 teams. Now I mentioned the Get Dubai event. Now,
can I just say one more thing about Imperial actually? Because I think that's, as much as the end result looked really bad, and I think that it's like, obviously it's not the kind of a level that we saw from them at the major. Look at me fucking pandering to the Brazilian crowd now. They actually have a decent peak. Like if you look at the maps where they look good, they actually look like a really solid team. The problem is they just don't look like it every series. They just have series where they have people turn up, and they actually look like a team that can work. You have Fair and Bolts. Like with the Astralis series that I'm talking about here, that was a really close series. Like they really could have won that and gone to the playoffs, off the back of that. So like it's not like they are shit at every turn. It's just like they don't show up every time, and so that's their biggest problem. Just consistency in general. So just something that I was thinking would be good to bring up.
Yeah. All right. NIP winning in Dubai. They won over Mouse. This says more about Mouse than it says about NIP. NIP had a stand in. ZTR was standing in for Hampus, who in back-to-back events was not in attendance. I guess NIP.
Chilling. He's just chilling. He doesn't.
Well, why not?
Okay.
I guess his focus. Hampus.
No, I meant
ZTR.
no, I meant ZTR.
Yeah. But I think like overall for NIP, this has just been this constant revolving door of like a different fifth for a different reason at every, like, you know, like whether they've chosen to change their fifth
Some
or
things
whether
never
someone,
change.
you know, and they just continue to. But I guess their focus is obviously going to be like, because the roster now, hampus must want to play with this roster now that Brolin's there. Like it's a good team right now, right? Like that's no, it doesn't seem like it's gotten. Like you could definitely have an upgrade in the AWPing position, right? Like that's would be the dream, I suppose, for everybody. But in terms of the team, it's solid. They continue to perform solid. They won this trophy. I know that their other teams at the event didn't perform particularly well. If we're going to be completely fair with how things were, but NIP, they continue to keep up the story that we keep saying of them having a high floor, right? Because to win an event without your in-game leader over like OG, sure, they just had 2 new players, but this is still to win with a stand-in. It shouldn't be that easy for them, right? Like this is why I said it says more about Mouse than it says about NIP. Like,
Yeah,
give Mouse to the end of the year and then blow this project up, because it's what the fuck are we doing?
End of the year.
Well, if it was me, I'd do it now, but they're not going to do that.
There's even like a decent shout in the chat. Let me find the name. Army Potent CS. He says Hooksy, Zyphon, and Vorborg, who is the former
manager.
CEO, manager, whatever, co-CEO, to Mouse is the best possible move for both parties. Prove me wrong. It's
not
actually
a terrible idea.
Not a terrible idea.
Or just
overall.
put the academy team as the main team.
Yeah. Or maybe merge even more. Yeah, it definitely shows that Mouse's trajectory is just like it's flat line. It's just like a complete plateau from the team. If they can't beat NIP here, it was a kind of an okay, decent series, but not really a close series. Not a series where NIP was like, oh my god, they're gonna lose. They lost the first map and then recovered. So fine overall. And as you said, for NIP, just a very consistent performance. OG beat Complexity as well, and then they got
Complexity
destroyed.
are done too. Complexity have to change. Like they have to change Junior. There's no question anymore. They have to change Junior. Right? Like Falcons, they had to stand in. NASA, we're not even having a conversation about them. Tyloo, there were some moments watching them, I was like, okay, they're doing some good stuff. But they obviously they just got Letney as a coach, right? So they're going to need some more time with him and probably more play overseas.
They're going to play the conference, right? Because instead of Vici,
that's right, a rare atom, I believe they're called these days, actually, Prof. Movistar Riders, again, they make top 4, but it's not like an event that's like exciting. So it's like, what does that even mean? I guess you played some LAN, right? Otherwise, the only storyline with this is teams who are playing poorly need to make changes, and NIP, you avoid yourself any stress by winning the event. I guess that's it. You literally just avoided stress by winning that event. That's all you did.
Yeah,
I think it probably. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I don't have anything smart.
I was just going to make an off comment. I think, especially considering hampus wasn't there, it probably gives a lot of props to like DJL. He's been in the team 5-6 months now, and hampus has even been very outspoken about how T sides have improved massively since, and IP's form has directly improved since DJL joined. I think he probably deserves some props for that win as well.
Yeah, we're DJL fans around here. But he was sick, right? They had to have Mr. Gunderson step in.
Oh, was he not there?
He was there for he just missed the final. They had the vid. But
well, it was only against Mouse, so it didn't really matter.
So did Crimbo, right?
Mouse had three guys at the hotel as well. It was just kind of a funny final.
Crimbo went down with the vid, didn't he?
Yep. Yeah, and this is a point I also wanted to make as well when you were talking about Imperial Astralis game. I think I'm bashing Astralis a little bit here, but I think they got really lucky at Pinnacle in some sense, because not only did Imperial almost beat them in that BO3, and that was like the winner's match. That was like, to remember, Imperial didn't even get out of the group. That was the game to go 2-0 out of the group. They ballsed it up. They beat Finest in the BO1 Imperial, and then they felt them in the BO3, and they just lost and went out. But Astralis not only got that Imperial game, which they barely won, but then they go into the like a semi-final, I guess, the winners match, because they topped the group, and they play Big, who have a stand-in, who have Keto, and we already know like the Keto Crimbo comparison is like not even fair. Crimbo's miles better. Big have looked way better ever since they swapped them out, and Astralis get a weakened Big, who I think the final should and would have been like Big versus Heroic, and I think Astralis could have even got grouped, man. So I think they got pretty fortunate there, but yeah, that sucks for Big as well. But they're at Blast, right? They should be okay.
Yeah,
fingers crossed.
Well, that's the thing. If Crimbo's going to be able to play, right? I guess we're assuming
I
he's going to be able to play.
It's going to be close, I guess, but it could be.
Yeah,
we don't know. Days out.
We'll wait and see. All right, let's jump into the Blast conversation now. Everyone cool with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Let's get into the fun stuff here. Now, I want Lucas to bring this up for everybody. This is important. This is it's in Lisbon for those of you who aren't too familiar with what's happening. Now, the way the Blast circuit works is that the events are kind of in stages, right? So we brought it up on that graphic earlier. They were the first event of the year, which was their group stage. Then they had the showdown, and the showdown was broken up regionally. They had one for Europe and they had one for North America. And now they have their finals, right? But this is drawn out from the start of the year. I actually did some work earlier. I have some figures here. Hold up. So where are we? Blast. Okay. So the showdown finished on the 1st of May. That was 43 days ago, right? And the teams that qualified from there were where have we got? Showdown.
The Pain.
Pain. Yeah.
No, not OG.
ENCE.
ENCE,
Yeah. So those two teams right there are the ones that qualified 43 days ago. And then if you go back and you want to know exactly how long it was over 4 months, just over 4 months, on the 6th of February that the group stage ended, right? So one of the risks that Blast do by having this format is that you're not always going to get the best teams at that time, right? You're going to get the best teams over the last 6 months, maybe, if you're lucky. And with it being the first event of the year, but it worked out pretty well. They got FaZe, the major champion. They got the world number 2 here. They've got NAVI, sure, with a stand-in now, but still NAVI. G2 and Vitality. Now, those two names have a bit of a conversation about. Big, we just mentioned. OG with their new roster, and Pain, who, right, they beat Furia 2-0 in the final. It was online, I believe, but they still beat them, right? So that's how we have this constellation of teams in front of us right here. But yeah, as I mentioned, that's one of the risks that you run when you have an arena event like this that is hoping that the best teams are going to qualify earlier, right? You might not always get this, and so they're very lucky, I think, to make sure that they have FaZe and ENCE here. But outside of this, we're still missing Cloud9, we're missing Heroic, we're missing some bigger names. Yes, Dragon?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, OG qualified with a lineup that doesn't even have its core anymore.
That's true.
I mean,
that is true. Yeah, without Mantu playing
now, without Degster playing, obviously they just have Nexa and Flames from that time, so they just have 2 out of 5 even.
Yeah,
which is, I mean, obviously, in a normal setting, you wouldn't want that team to play because they obviously didn't qualify with this lineup. But that's the curious part about this format, right?
But this is where I want to put the framing on events like this, right? So like Pinnacle Cup and the Get Dubai event are just like they mean different things to different teams. We were talking about it before. So now I want to use that framing to talk about what Blast Lisbon means for the teams in attendance, right? For ENCE, for them to win this right now is actually hugely important, wouldn't you say, Hugo?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we were talking about this earlier, and they were the one team that completely slipped my mind when we were talking about, is FaZe number 1, and is anyone competing? Yeah, it is ENCE, especially with Navi as a stand-in. G2 questionable form. Maybe they could make a run, but they've got the easier group of 2. I think G2 should be the second team through their group, I'd imagine. What was my point? Oh yeah, how much money do you have to give to Striker Chad if ENCE win this tournament, or how long? What's the time span right now?
Somebody actually made a Twitter account.
Oh,
really?
Yeah,
it's like 3 months left now.
And it's good. Okay. It's good that the guy made it, because like we didn't go back and look at it, but this gentleman or lady went back and they worked it out, and it's good because now we have like a time frame around it. But if FaZe, because it would be a different time for ENCE. ENCE would have been in the top 3 later, right? But if FaZe stay in the top 3 for the next 3 months or however many days,
like mid-September,
exactly, then at that point, I will have lost the bet, and I owe Striker and Pimp €1,000 each. But I just want to point out that at that point, it will have been like almost 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like that's crazy.
I think over 3 years even.
Who makes a 5-year bet? Like, let's think about like seriously how long that is.
That's why we took it, right? Like,
yeah, of course. But isn't that crazy? Like in terms of the whole conversation about international teams, it has taken this long. Like, I mean, to be fair, that is pretty wild.
Like the COVID really put a hamper on a lot of roster changes. Like we saw how they just opened up the floodgates once COVID was over, and everybody knew that there was space to make roster changes. Almost everybody did, and they made big roster changes, And so like we saw how kind of delayed the reaction was a lot, like from pre-COVID times, because people weren't sure, like, are we shit because it's the online era, we don't really know, stuff like that. They just, like, a lot of the teams also, because the RMRs, the way that they were set up, nobody wanted to make big roster changes because they were losing points. That would mean they wouldn't be at the first major in 2 years and stuff like that. I think that's a lot. That played a huge part in why we didn't really see any international teams do well.
When did it happen before that, right? Like, had it happened before that?
FaZe 2017, sorry.
Okay, they were the only other one
That was
in there
the
for
only
6
other
months.
one,
Yeah, okay. So it's like that just shows you how rare this is, and the fact that we have ENCE
course.
in there now as well, who might continue to push that boundary as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the
That's
time we
pretty
also
exciting.
Is it $2,000 if the top 3 are FaZe and
No,
ENCE, like
mate,
do
it
double or
just-
nothing?
just one team. Like,
Oh, yeah, nice.
Maybe you can
keep
maybe
going.
SPUNJ can negotiate a double or nothing deal.
Yeah, there we go.
That's good. Yeah, I mean, take it at this point. 5 years, Chad. 5 years. I mean, something about
They wouldn't take it.
giving monkeys enough typewriters. You know, it was bound to happen.
They wouldn't go for 3. Initially, they did 3, and they were like, nobody would take it. And I was obviously just trying to be
the original one. The original one was top 1 for 6 months. That's why that's the main reason why I didn't take it. If you said top 3 for 3 years, maybe I would have taken it. That I would have lost that bet.
Fuck. Should have said that.
Because
All right.
you went from top 1 for 6 months the next 3 years, which is just crazy because nobody stays top 1 for 6 months straight. Like it's really hard. Well, basically, like the Astralis did it, and that's pretty much it, I think.
Yeah. Okay.
And so, like,
cooked myself there.
So that was the big part. But like the 3 year, 3 years definitely didn't think it was not going to happen until then.
Well, okay, so we're talking about how important this is for ENCE to win this event. Like that's going to put them up in like it's going to mean a lot of things. Like global Counter-Strike, it's going to mean winning this event against likely FaZe, right? Like that's probably the most likely competitor for them here. It depends on how it all shakes out. But I guess for them as a team, Lisbon, last time we were there, was fucking real loud. The crowd was nuts, which is great. It's more crowd experience for this roster who don't have a lot of it. We've been discussing that till the cows come home, even with somebody like Snappy. So it's more of that. This, for me, is like another step for them in like all these little baby steps that they've kind of been taking to be ready for the next major. Like this time round was they're like, okay, their breakout, like they've been playing well up until this point, and then they played good still, but it, like they proved that they can do it at this level of tournament, right? Now it's about, okay, you got to do it again at an event, obviously not as prestigious as something like the major, but it's still a big event. The crowd's still going to be there. It's still those same conditions. It's a good opportunity to get those reps in performing. And I guess if the flip side of that is if they get like grouped or something, how much impact do we think that has on the team, right? Does that, you know, is that one of those like initial problems that 6 months time after that loss, if they have a few more losses, how badly does that come back to bite them?
Right.
This is like trying to project and think about the future. So it's an event that would be great for them to win. Is it an event that would be hugely detrimental for them to lose? Like, and when I say lose, I mean get grouped. Like, don't even make it, you know, out of this is it GSL group? I think it is.
It's through a top 3 event, so it's kind of hard for them to go out if you think about OG.
You'd have to
and,
come
like, what
dead
kind of lineup
last.
they're coming in and stuff. So
Let's just say finish like outside of the top 4, right? Let's just look at that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it would put a damper on their kind of the run that they have. And I know that they've been doing good, but even like we on this podcast have constantly been like, but this is where it stops, right? Now this is where it stops. And they've been constantly pushing this narrative further, like constantly being like, oh, they're actually pretty good. Now they're in the quarters, now in the semis, now they're in the finals of Dallas, right? What they are missing is when we had Kerrigan on, we talked about this as well. It's like you need to win to know how to win, because until you win, everything before that is kind of different. Like you can making semis or making even a grand final versus make a quarterfinal. I don't feel like that's as big of a difference as actually winning a trophy. So this is a pretty good chance for them to do so.
It'd be a good one for them to do so as well with, right? Because we just had Heroic do one, and we just had Cloud9 do
as
one.
well.
If ENCE grab one as well, that's pretty exciting.
Creates a really nice storyline for Cologne for sure. Like if you think about it, we would basically have like FaZe, let's say Navi at least do well here, and then we have Cloud9, we have Heroic, you know, just off of one. We have ENCE. Like it would be a massive storyline for Cologne for sure.
Yeah. I mean, there's also a thing, I don't know if anyone watches football, but in football they do this. They pull out the stupidest fucking stats ever, and they go like, Juventus's history against British clubs over the last 20 years is 75-25. It's like, it's completely irrelevant to the players that are on the field today, but they do these things. But in that vein, ENCE's last big trophy came from an Iberian tournament, Blast Madrid. It's all coming together, boys. They have great results on the Iberian Peninsula. It's all about the sun and the great food and the attractive siestas midday. It's all about the naps, man.
I love it.
Attractive siestas. Okay.
I love it. I'm all aboard. I'm all aboard. We can get excited about that.
Yeah.
Right. right now, I guess we're talking more. We'll talk at the end of who we actually think. Let's continue to talk in this. Like, what does it mean? I'm liking this. Like, this is because I think this is something that's important to do, is to help people understand the importance of these events for different teams, right? Like, I've said that we should do this before, and I'm glad that we're doing it now. Now, for FaZe, we already talked about them a little bit earlier, right? Striker, you said, I asked the question, do you think it's important for them to consolidate here in Lisbon after the loss in Dallas? For them to like retain that number one. Now, this is the thing. I see people in chat as well when we're having this conversation saying, "Oh, they still won the biggest events." Yeah, of course they did, right?
Yeah, but if they lose two events in a row now, that means something. You know, that means,
of course,
okay,
that's what I'm saying.
We definitely don't see this team as like a clear number one anymore.
Yeah,
like, they're contenders. You know,
exactly. Like there's different like versions of teams. There's like Astralis when they were dominant, and every event they went to, they would win, right? Or like place top two, and they would, you know, or you have teams who, you know, like. FaZe like this is early conversations as well. It's meant to be speculation. That's the point. Like, how is the storyline going to unfold depending on what results happen, right? They're still the major champion. No one takes that away from them. They're still the world number one. But what happens here if they lose this event? What happens here if they win this event? Does anybody disagree with that sentiment about they need to consolidate here, like with this victory? Prof, Hugo?
Yeah, I agree. I also think it matters who they lose to if they were going to lose. Say FaZe make it to a final but lose to ENCE. Like, obviously that's not worse, because obviously ENCE is number two, but it puts that number one spot more under question than, say, you know, G2 come in and they're super refined and Alexi's calling well and Nico's hitting his shots, and like, oh, G2 have come in massive, or even actually NAVI. I think you could even make an argument that this team could surprise if Young is comfortable and everything works. I think if you lose to the number two, especially when they are also a European mix and we're in the conversation, all of that, I think it's not worse. I'm trying to think of the right word for it, but like, it does put FaZe more under question than losing to a team that maybe just has like a super good event out of nowhere and then goes back to, you know, being top 5, top 10.
Let's whack it this way, Prof. The Steve 999398 in chat says, but this blast event doesn't even matter for FaZe. Now, what he's alluding to here, I am assuming Steve 9999 is the fact that FaZe, by winning the major, are already qualified for the Blast World Finals, but there's 200 grand up for grabs, and also these are competitors and they want to win, right?
It's a trophy, it's arena, it's, you know, it's legacy, it's all of these things.
Yeah, I mean, people act. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I just want to say, like, people say, oh, they won 3 out of the last 4 events, but then if they don't win this, it's gonna be 3 out of 5, right? Then
0 out of 2,
right? It can be 0 out of 2. It all depends on how you frame it, and then you can, if you want to be one of the best of all times, as Kerrigan wants to, like, get all the trophies that he can right now in this era where there's not a lot of other teams that you can say like are in an amazing form. Like, why aren't you getting these trophies, right? Why aren't you trying to challenge for like what NAVI did in their like 6 months of a mini era or whatever, right? And then maybe if you win like 5 or 6 trophies in the first half of this year, maybe you continue and grab like 2-3 more in the next part of the year, and now you're suddenly one of the best teams of all time. Like, it's like, how can you say it doesn't matter? It's not Cologne, it's not the major, but it's an important tournament. There's no question marks now about this tournament as it was for Dallas. Like, it's not 1 week after the major. It's not like they have another tournament in a week. They have this, and they have the
Rubek Cup.
I'm not going to say stupid, but it's an online tournament in the middle of a LAN season for no reason. So
I think it's just a tune-up event for Cologne, right?
Yeah, and then they have Cologne.
That's the one where I would say maybe they don't care so
much.
No
one cares about
super,
no one cares
super
if they lose that. Yeah. So this is a tournament that they are coming in to win. There's no question about that.
Yeah. I mean, consider if FaZe won both this and Cologne, right? That means they basically won everything other than Dallas this entire season.
Yeah.
And that's huge for like an era talk, you know. But if they lose here, and then maybe even if they win Cologne, they're still they're shaky, you know, obviously.
Now, this is one of the problems. I remember this was the case with like Vitality a couple years ago. Maybe it's the case with FaZe here as well, but they're one of the Blast partner teams. So I think they would have to play this event anyway. Like, that they've qualified, they would have to. I don't think they could pull out of the event.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, maybe they can if it was like really bad, but you know.
But you don't want to pull out of a arena event. Like, these are the events that you play for. Like, these are the things that people.
This is a big event. Like, there's no reason for you not to care about this event whatsoever. You know, it's like, why? This clearly still like really good competition, really good prize money on the line, arena event.
200K.
This is a big trophy.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm glad we got that out of the way. People understand now. There we go. What do we got next on the little agenda right here?
Look, I wanted to say, okay, a little bit more of a fun storyline for ENCE.
Yeah.
Snappy is really not a fan of the whole partnership structure. So there's another source of motivation for him to show blast that fuck you. We're the best team at your partnered organization tournament. So
I would like to get Snappy on to have a conversation about that stuff.
He talks about it all the time.
Yeah, maybe we should get him on.
We have his point. Yeah.
But it'd be nice to have that like as a game changers episode, you know, where we talk about that stuff and how it all affects.
You definitely get a lot out of him. He's been talking about it forever, but
I'm sure people would like to hear from. Maybe we'll reach out to Snappy and see if he wants to come on and have a chat about that in the future. Okay, Navi with Sumdai Young. Now Sumdai Young's been out of action for a little while. He was over there with the Mad Lions team, wasn't he?
Yeah.
But the whole unfortunate situation of, you know, not being able to leave your country kind of made it a bit hard for him to go to boot camps and stuff. I do believe towards the end of Mad Lions.
Kind of collapsed as well. Like the org just locked it down and said goodbye.
He got so unlucky, man. He was in Spirit for 5 years, right? And then he gets bought out, and then within months they close, and then Spirit go top 4 of the major. Like Sumdai Young got robbed, man. Unlike, I mean, you know, obviously he leaves and they do well, but I guess we'll get some questions answered when we see him in Navi.
Why do you think they went with SDY Prof?
I think
free, no problems,
free, easy to acquire, Ukrainian, not Russian, not living in Russia, not paying taxes in Russia, no Russian girlfriend presumably. Maybe he does, I don't know. Though I don't know these details, but I think that's kind of why you go for him. And he's not the most exciting player, but he's a pretty stable player. He's pretty consistent. I feel like he's not a player that you look at that does a lot of mistakes or anything. So I feel like you pick him up, you're not going to be let down by him. I don't think so, but maybe he's not going to light the server on fire either. For me, the weird part is like role-wise, he doesn't fit like the aggressive boomage role at all. So I don't know if they're going to put him in that or if they're going to rejig stuff to put someone else there. And I don't know who would take that role, honestly, because for me, SDY is more like a perfecto than a boomage, like much more like a perfecto.
When did the boomage news come out? Was that before or after the Carrigan podcast?
Before.
So you spoke about Navi and everything then?
Yeah, kind of. We didn't go into the details, of course, of all the drama.
Sure.
But
yeah. Well, we've all
I'm not sure, but I don't think we had like the whole, you know, what happened afterwards with the wife and stuff like that. I don't think that happened.
But everybody's seen that unfold. And if people want to go find it,
that drama,
it's very, very easy to find. But yeah, I guess this then leaves us in a situation with a question. What do we do with Navi? Like for them, I guess it's about seeing if Electronic is going to in-game lead, which was the conversation, right? And if that is the case, then what type of player are they looking for? Right, like and maybe less about us speculating, but what type of a timeline do we think Navi are going to be on to get back on track? Because they have the same runway as everybody else starting now, like waking up first thing tomorrow, like everybody else, to be ready for the next major, right? And it's not like they've completely fallen off a cliff or anything. They're Navi minus Boomich, which maybe you could even argue isn't the worst thing in the world for the team, right? So. Do we think they'll be back in fighting shape for the next major? Do we think they'll get their shit together and get like the fifth they're looking for? Like, or do we think that this team now 2022 is a bust for Navi? It's going to take them the rest of 2022 to put everything back together, and then we'll look to see Navi in 2023. Like, any ideas?
I think it depends on the fifth, right? Like, is Sumdai Young permanent? It seems like Navi don't really have an answer or have an option right now. Like their public statement on it was Sumdai Young can stay depending on performance. So I guess even they don't know what's going on. It seems like the YEKINDAR talk shut down from what it seems like there. So I guess it depends on what 5 Navi stay with. To go back to like Prof's point on roles and how this doesn't really make sense. I'm worried about Electronic in-game leading, but maybe if he's going to turn into like the Boomich style, first in aggressive in-game leader, giving info to his team, I think that gives room for Sumdai Young to play more what he's used to. I don't know whether that will be the form Electronic takes, and maybe it will take months for him to figure out, but I have low expectations of Navi this event just because of so many role changes and player changes and everything going on in the heads of the players. We've seen what it has done to especially these CIS rosters the last few months. So low expectations. If they get out of groups, yeah, that's pretty good.
All right, let's do this then. Let's do this. Put it this way, Prof. let's live in a dream world where you can make anything happen within real world parameters. Okay, so you
Okay.
have to like it has to be some option that could be possible for Navi. But like if you could pick, you could like there was no contract issues, nothing like that, right? Like or what would make the most sense for in your mind for Navi now? Like should they get a young talented player and try and pick a diamond from the rough and get another bit? Should they get somebody already established?
Talking right now or
Right
like
now.
in 2
Like,
months?
like okay, well obviously they have event after event, right? So it's gonna be hard for them to like kind of scout. But let's say in the next couple of months, the team that we're going to see Navi play with for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I guess like what you're saying is YEKINDAR isn't an option.
Well, I guess I imagine that VP probably don't want to sell him to Navi.
Well, it's been made pretty clear that it's not an option. Let's just say that.
Okay.
And it doesn't seem like his contract is going to run out in the next 2 months. So I think that's not. I think that's 100% sure.
Okay.
So that's out of the question. Like, who do you get as an aggressive player that could potentially in-game lead? Like, also getting someone like Jerry, I'm not sure. Like, Jerry's actually super young, and he could still be like molded. Like, Jerry plus Blade would be an interesting combo for me, just to see how that could work out. But I don't know, for some reason I don't feel like Jerry is a player that could call for simple. Like, I don't know. That's just like my vibe.
I get what you're
saying. That they just don't mesh as kind of how they talk and everything. So that would be an issue. I think for me, maybe they just go for this electronic IGL experiment and find like a decent aggressive player to pick up. And that could be literally anyone from like a Patsy to whatever. But the question is about these buyouts, and a lot of these teams are based in Russia. So whoever they want from Force, from Spirit is not going to be available. So do they? I don't know. I really don't know who a good pickup would be, with that being a roadblock for them. It has to be someone that's like a free agent or something, and then you can just go for a academy player for that and put them in the squad.
You'd also wonder, like, if it wasn't for Cloud9 winning Dallas, maybe there was an avenue for NAVI at that point, you know. But obviously, still, you know, just entered a new organization, Russian player, also that kind of a problem. But like, that's probably just off the table at this point. I don't think that there's any world where that can happen after Dallas.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see what the future holds for Navi here going forward. Let's jump into the last couple of teams to talk about for Blast, and then we'll do some predictions, and then we'll go into playtime and some viewer questions and what's left over. Okay, so G2 and Vitality. G2 started the year pretty nice with Katowice grand final, but since then it's kind of been a bit wishy-washy. So let's put them on the microscope right here. Let's throw this one to you, Hugo. If G2, right, have lackluster results for the remainder of the season, so up until the player break, right, do you think that's it for this roster? They're going to make changes going into the second half of the year?
I think, yeah, probably. I think it's this entire roster and project of G2 ever since Stockholm has kind of put Alexi under the microscope, right? Like, it's kind of made him, it's kind of, Alexi was touted as like, oh, really good in-game leader, you can do anything with any team, and he comes into this team, G2 top 2 at the last major, come into Antwerp, you know, not quite the same form. So I think there's a lot of questions for Alexi, because, you know, next it didn't seem like from the outside that G2 needed to make changes after Stockholm, but clearly internally, whether it was in or outside of the server, like the Nexa thing wasn't working. And not to say that he's like gone on and done something incredible with OG, but Alexi in this team, I think, is under a lot of scrutiny, and maybe rightly so, because it's like, how many more pieces do you need that can perform, that have experience? You know, Nico, one of the best players in the world, even right now. Yeah, I think there's a lot of questions for Alexi B. I don't know who the hell you'd replace him with. We're lacking in-game leaders right now, as we've already like talked about with the whole Navi thing. So I think he's the big question mark for me. Obviously, people talked about YEKINDAR filling in for someone like Jax. Like, firepower is great. That would be cool, but is the firepower going to be enough if you know, G2 still have T-side struggles, which they've had all year long?
Okay. Does anybody agree or disagree with that sentiment there from Hugo?
I'm fully not fully behind it, but I'm behind it, definitely. Doesn't seem like it's my problem with G2 for the whole time. They seem like less than the sum of their parts, and by a decent margin.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, usually you point to either the IGL or the coach, or just the general philosophy behind the team, right? Like, when that happens. So
this event's important to them, Striker, we would say. with this roster.
You're really big. You're really big on future
No, but like, it is important to highlight, right? Like, so
Yeah,
this
of course.
event for G2 going into this event, right?
I mean that we're assuming that there haven't been like decisions made already. You know, like, we're assuming this is not a dead team.
Okay,
Now,
here
look,
we
and I'm-
go.
You want to share some news?
Look, and I'm not. I actually don't have anything concrete to like support this with.
He's
but
got some leads
let's-
though. If it's not concrete, it's got to
Yeah.
be some leads
Look,
here.
there's-
He's got a
look, there's
couple of
Reports
leads.
are often true.
Oh yeah, there's definitely been some ramblings, right? Like behind the scenes about like whether G2 could be making changes. Obviously, the whole YEKINDAR situation, you know, there's no way G2 didn't ask about YEKINDAR. Like, let's just put it that way. Like, there's no way there's a player like YEKINDAR available and they don't go to VP asking how much.
Any player any team outside of the top like 6-7 that didn't ask about YEKINDAR are not doing their job.
Apparently,
exactly.
Apex doesn't want anything to do with the guy.
Can we talk about that for a second, by the way?
Yeah, we can.
Can we talk about that?
Well, we're going to talk about Vitality, so we can talk.
sure.
Yeah,
Let's
take
talk
us
about
there,
it when we
Striker.
get-
Take us
Oh
there.
my god, how can you say that?
What do you mean? It was like a casual podcast.
So
right?
upset.
Yeah, but how can you? But did you see how determined that answer was and like in what tone? I didn't see the actual podcast. I'm just talking about.
Didn't
the
he make similar
translation.
comments about ROPS as well? Though, right? Well, not like.
I don't know exactly about this, but like
Oh
obviously,
no, it was
okay,
Neo
so
that made comments about ROPS, wasn't it?
maybe.
Yeah.
It
Anyway,
wasn't
he wasn't-
about
yeah, it wasn't
Rops.
about Rops.
Okay, Chad.
Sorry,
yeah,
man.
yeah.
My
Anyway, so okay, just to put things into perspective for people who don't know what I'm talking about, right? Like Apex apparently went on this French podcast with Xtaz as well, right?
Yep.
They were both there, and Apex said something along the lines of, he doesn't want to play with YEKINDAR because of I don't know what it is exactly, something like about attitude or his demeanor or whatever it is exactly, and then that if Neo got him into the team, Apex would go retire to a North America.
That's
And
a
I'm
great
like,
answer. I love that.
Going
answer.
shocks.
like how is your impression of a player that you've never played with, that you've probably just come across, probably not really had that much interaction with, you know, outside of, you know, maybe just something casual at events and stuff like that? How can your perception of a player be as strong as that, especially of a player as good as this? Like, that's a player that will improve Vitality like from one day to another.
But he
him
was
in-
firing off shots. Like, you
putting
could
him
tell
from
he was just
Mitsuda,
firing
and
off
this
shots.
is a better
mate.
team already. It doesn't matter like if it doesn't work, if you don't like him.
Apex was
it's
like,
crazy.
no one cares about this podcast. No one's gonna know what I said tomorrow. Like 7 headlines. Like fuck.
There was a thing he
that's
said about
almost the feeling that
Stewie
I'm
as
getting.
well, right? Like, you're saying something about like Stewie's
Yeah,
not
that
meant
he's
to be a
not-
leader or
yeah.
something. He makes like twice as much money as him or some shit.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
he was
that's,
just
look,
firing
that,
shots.
at least that's like substantiated, right? Like, because Stewie has had some like awkward history, especially recent, right? But like you say something like this about YEKINDAR, who's literally been like the best entry we've probably seen in years. Man. Like, it's crazy.
This is the thing. This is if he was on a podcast and he was there with Xtaz and they're in like more of a casual environment, right? And you know the way Apex is.
Yeah, it's
I feel
probably
like
a more
it's a lot-
exaggeration to some
Exactly.
Maybe it was
right?
to a degree.
I
yeah.
think it's probably just, you know, like Apex is a big personality guy. Like, he's probably just making like off the cuff remarks a bit more in jest, just to be partially entertaining, like not to be like to say you always add a little bit extra, you know?
Yeah,
you
sure.
add a little
but,
bit
like, there's
extra.
obviously something behind it, right? Like, you.
But yeah, even if he said, like,
Q&A.
I wouldn't want to play with YEKINDAR. Is like, why? Like, what's the reason behind it? Like,
Yeah, that's true.
Not like he's toxic outside the server. Like, the guy is like the
That's
loveliest
what I'm
person
saying,
I've
like,
ever
he-
met. I don't know if
even-
that's a facade. Like,
Yeah, even
the
if you look at him,
Canadian-esque. I don't know.
yeah, even if you look at him like during the tournament, like obviously I don't speak Russian fully, but I can catch things, you know, and I've seen them play together. I've never seen YEKINDAR be like a toxic individual to the rest of the team. He's always been like very.
He's always very
obviously
candid though
pumped
about
up.
it being work.
He's very pumped up
Yeah,
and stuff
true.
like that. He's very like vocal and he's gonna shout at the other team and shit like that. He's gonna do that stuff. He's gonna be like in the other team's head, but he's not
Maybe-
gonna do this inside. Like, as far as I could tell, he doesn't do this inside the team and just like create arguments and just like be toxic to everybody else. And like, he's a mega hardworking person clearly, and he's just amazing. So
What if
how
he's
can you-
sandbagging?
How can you say that?
What if he's sandbagging?
I mean,
What if
it
he's
was-
actually
it was
having
Apex-
Yekinda join?
It was Apex who said that stuff about Cadian, right? Wasn't it? He said like, "Oh, this guy is very different, like, you know, in person to how people perceive him, and he puts
Right.
on an act, he puts on a facade. Maybe YEKINDAR is so nice he doesn't buy it. Maybe he's like, nah,
Yeah.
there's another layer to this. He's being too kind. I don't know. I take YEKINDAR on face value. That guy's nice.
Exactly. And like, you put him in for Vitality, it almost doesn't matter who you put him in for.
Yeah.
That team's probably going to be better if it's not Zaiwu, essentially. So like, what the fuck are you saying?
Let's pivot to the blast focus here around Vitality, right? Because that was, if anybody wants to find that, I'm sure you can find it. It was a thread on Reddit with like a bunch of the stuff translated. But Striker, keeping it with you here,
Yeah.
are Vitality in the same boat as G2? They have achieved less than G2 in the same amount of time, right?
Yeah, that's pretty fair. And they've also lost a lot to G2. So like,
But they don't
that'll
seem like they
definitely-
hate each other on camera.
Vitality? No,
Yeah.
not really. I haven't really seen them just generally like outside of disagreements about the game and like you didn't call this, you didn't call that, stuff like that. You just don't see them really have too much trouble. It's just kind of like the classic Apex molding and stuff like that. It's nothing we haven't seen before essentially.
So are they in the same situation are they under as much pressure as somebody like G2? Like G2 with the before this major, the previous major finalists, right? So there's maybe a bit more that comes with that. Do you expect Vitality to have to or should make changes in a similar vein to G2 if they don't start performing towards the tail end of this season?
I mean, there isn't as clear of an indication that there could be kind of like a philosophy problem. Not necessarily philosophy. Obviously, Vitality have some sort of problems with like making it work between the French and the Danish side. Like, there's definitely indications of that, but not like where like one side just like clearly doesn't buy into whatever the other is doing. And obviously, like I am insinuating a little bit of Nico Alexi problems, and it is something that like there's just awkward. There's just like awkward aura around G2 that I don't really feel with Vitality, in that same sense, essentially. And a part of it could be subjective. A part of it could just be kind of like reputation about just generally Nico and the whole micromanagement side of LXCB. But I just don't get that same feeling when I'm watching them play, even inside the game, right? That they just don't really work on the same page whatsoever. With Vitality, I could at least see that it works when the individuals are on point, and that's not necessarily what works with G2. G2 is just always outrageous, and it's just because their individuals are on point sometimes.
I'll throw this one to you now, Hugo, because I want to contrast what Striker's saying with what you said about G2. Vitality made these changes to like win trophies, right? They didn't make these changes because before with the French team, I know it was after the decision was already made from management, but they started to play better towards the tail end of last year, right? The results that they're getting this year are nowhere near as good as the results they were getting last year, and the changes were made to win. Like they got massive signings. Dupree, Magic, and Sonic. You're not here to fuck spiders. You know what I mean? Like you're here to win. Like you got Zywoo as well. So how much longer does the organization give this team before they try and make more changes? Like,
I was actually going to throw that exact question out to you, Chad, because it's a crazy one. Like if you look at if you go off of like June's ranking for HLTV, like Vitality since January, since the like debut with this 4-5 and the Danes coming in at that event, they beat FaZe and G2. Like since that event, Vitality have not beaten a top 10 team.
That's crazy.
In any aspect. What an insane way to think about it. Like you said, this is a team made to win trophies. It's major winners. It's some of the best players of the world in previous years, like in both sides. So I don't know where this team is going. Honestly, the way when we were back at the RMR, I didn't even think they were going to make a run there. And when we got to the major, I kind of like doubted them every step of the way, maybe a bit too much. But I don't know.
I put too much hope.
Yeah, exactly, because you should, and that's fair enough. Like, look at the names. Like, name value is so important. But then you look at that's why I think this first group of blasts is so cool, because you have these two teams that are like superstar rosters that aren't performing in G2 and Vitality, both of them like French originally. So I think it's cool. I don't know. I would have loved YEKINDAR over Masuta in this team. It's clearly not. It's clearly not going to happen. I don't know. What they're going to do, but yeah, there has to be eventually a timer on this team. We're like 6 months, almost 6 months in now. Give them till the end of the year, give them till the end of Rio, and then probably changes.
I have a question for Chad.
Yes.
Both Vitality and G2 have a history. G2's coach and Vitality as an org have a history with a certain IGL, which is Alex, who's now on the market again. Do you think there is a chance?
Ooh.
Those teams?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Ever? This year?
I don't think this year. No.
No.
I don't know. I think I don't think Alex would be an upgrade on either of them.
Okay.
I think like maybe Alex.
What do you think? What if the issue isn't even Nico and Alexi B? Maybe it's Xtaz and Alexi B.
Maybe.
And if that's maybe then Xtaz wants his wants his best mate from Vitality, who was he was his like, what is the best man at his wedding or some shit, and then he brings in
Maybe.
Alex for that, and then everything just clicks.
Maybe. I feel like you're in a fantasy world right now. Maybe I left you in that dream state you're in.
I mean, that is one of the very few in-game leaders who are on the market, to be fair.
But
so,
but
like,
is it is that who you're changing if you're G2? Are you changing the in-game leader? Like the
No,
rumors are
the
rumors are that they'd change Jax, right?
The problem, no,
I don't-
the
I don't
rumor
think
is
so.
there's a
But
chance there
only
could be
if
two.
Yekindar's available, right?
There's
Like,
the-
who would you swap Jax for if it's not Yekinder? I don't like. Jax
But it
isn't
depends on
a
how they want to
problem.
configure their team. Like, do we think they obviously haven't cracked the code of how to use their pieces, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's no doubt. The only one that they're getting a consistent yield from, like he's a juicy fucking marijuana plant, is Hunter, right? He's the only one. The rest of them are a bit hit and miss here and there, right? Like Hunter is the only one that we're really looking at that feel like with the eye test, at least someone's going to pull up the stats and go, no, well, actually, if you divide by 2, you can see here that Nico is still like.
No, I mean Nico is putting up numbers, to be fair.
Yeah.
Like he's still very much a
But Hunter's the
star
one who I
player,
feel
you know?
that I'm getting the most out of, right? Nico, I know that I can get more out of. Like I feel like even though like Nico's one of the best players in the world, do you guys think we're getting the absolute best we possibly can out of Nico right now?
Did you see?
But
there was
that-
one thing actually from kind of like the EVP list that I caught from Dallas, because Nico was one of them. Did you see the difference between his CT and T side stats?
How outrageous are we talking?
Out fucking rageous.
Flame F tier?
1.52 CT side.
Wow.
Fucking across, what is it, 11 maps that he played. 11 maps across 11 maps, he had 1.52 CT side rating. T side was 0.95 or something like that, 0.97, something along
Okay.
those lines.
Doesn't that
Okay.
scream in-game leader though, Chad? Doesn't that scream needing? A
I
new
mean, he's
piece?
kind of talked about he's talked about kind of like some of his roles changing. I'm like, if you look at Nico like late last year, like you don't fucking touch him, man. Like you let him do whatever he wants. You know, I don't know how much the role changes came from, you know,
Coaching,
behind,
in-game leading,
from
the
behind,
team,
exactly.
his choice. Yep.
Maybe it was his choice, who knows? But like he's definitely insinuated that that something's not really fitting him in terms of role changes and stuff like that. So, and he's pretty openly said that like they just haven't figured things out as quickly as they were hoping. And I mean, no shit, like they're clearly not working as well as we were hoping. So that's just something that I wanted to point to, that like Nico, when he was basically like a top 3 player in the world late last year, kind of, you know, in the discussion of, is he actually better than Zywo? Is he on the level of Simple? You know, stuff like that. Like that Nico you don't want to touch, you know, like you don't want to tell him what to do. You don't want to change anything about what he does. Like he was fucking amazing at, you know, creating opportunities out of nothing on the sideline, you know? So I'm just
But
curious.
they obviously have moved away from that, right? Like,
Yeah, a
but
little
it's
bit,
not,
for
it's,
sure.
and I guess this is the question. It's like, do you want to give Nico everything you can for him to be the best player? Do you think that it's better going with like a team approach to how you're going to win the game? Like you have all these different choices, right? And the only one of the choices that is right is the one that wins them trophies.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that's it. That's that.
I mean,
Like,
that's the thing. Like, people can say, "Oh, we're shitting on Alexi B overrated." Blah blah. It's not even about like Alexi B could be maybe not the best, but he could be the 5th best IGL in the world and still not be the right IGL for G2. It's just how.
yeah,
it is.
or
Just,
for Nico, like who has
yeah.
been, who has like that's the thing. It's like
It's not an easy job.
You've got to, but that's it. Like he's a special breed. Like that's the thing with Simple. It's never been easy to in-game lead Simple. We all remember watching NAVI versus a team and Zeus is there as the in-game leader, and Simple's fucking arguing with his in-game leader live in the middle of a game on a stage match.
When
Just
they're
being
up
like,
8-1
shut the
or
fuck
some
up.
shit as well.
Yeah, like so we
And
know
to be
that
honest, like
there's-
G2 doesn't look that bad. Doesn't look like they're arguing or anything, but it seems
it
at
seems
least-
tense. I
it
feel
seems a bit
stressed when I
tense.
watch them.
but it seems respectful at the same time. It doesn't seem like, you know, there's undermining each other or such shit like that.
Right.
But the results that we see and how they play, like something doesn't add up. And like between the 3 of them, it's like Nico is definitely the second caller on this team. Alexi is the main caller, and the coach, like that triangle isn't working out perfectly. And then like last episode I was talking about YEKINDAR for Jax. I think that is just a roster move you always do, because it's just gonna make you better overall. It's gonna make some maybe parts a bit worse, but overall you're gonna be better. But that is probably not the core of the issues, but it could help still.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't mind it.
If you just fuck everybody up on individual skill alone, maybe, you know, all the other issues go away. You don't
Someone
really
in
need
chat
you don't
put a
really need
great
a
roster
massive
change.
amazing caller when you have your Yekinder opening up half the rounds and Nico and Hunter just running around and just like basically creating opportunities, right? Like that could actually work, because you just have 3 people on a fucking in chaos, you know, just like you can't really, how do you give lead that anyway? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. Well, what's the suggestion, Hugo?
Someone in chat, I can't read their name, it's too long. JG89. They put bird from Sky to G2. Sorry, I'm just very much on the ecstatic hype train today. Unfortunately, you have to buy him out with Dragon Laws from Zipple. Otherwise, you're not going to get him. But,
we'll talk about ecstatic in a moment. Actually, let's do this. Let's round up our conversation right now about Blast. Let's go around the room and let's predict who's going to win. Actually, predict who's going to win. Does anybody want to go first?
I mean, I'm going to be the most boring, probably.
Okay,
so
be the most boring.
I'll just go with FaZe because I think Dallas wasn't necessarily a reflection of their best form. I think that was pretty clear that they just weren't, and they acknowledged it themselves. They just weren't at 100% after the major. Clearly, there's some link between, you know, coming off of major hype and stuff like that, and just not being at the same level at the next event as that article that you were talking about has kind of has shown. Mm-hmm. So that's like along those lines. I think we're going to see the FaZe that we're kind of used to from the first half of the year in Blast, and they're going to win.
Okay. Anyone want to get on the FaZe train? Anyone else think
I
FaZe?
agree.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Okay. I'll be the only. I'm going to say ENCE, and this is not because I'm not a FaZe fanboy. I love myself a bit of FaZe, but if FaZe bomb out here and they bomb out in Cologne, there's a chance that I don't lose my bet. So if there is a God now this evening, I will pray to you to help me. Because there's still a chance that I don't lose the bet if FaZe bomb.
Have you earned that love from God?
I don't think so, but this is the thing. When you don't have any other choice.
God loves all of us, regardless.
Yeah, repent, Chad. Repent, and then you'll be fine.
I will have to.
I agree with you, Chad. I believe.
Look, the problem is for you though. Like if ENCE win, then I'll have another team.
That's okay.
Definitely stay for top three.
That's when OG sneak in. They win the whole thing. They go on a 6-month reign of terror. The best EU team in the house. Chad loses thousands and thousands of euros.
Oh fuck yeah! Now we're gonna be poor before the recession hits us. All right. That got real.
We need to adjust the $1,000 bet for inflation, though.
Let's get into playtime, Lucas. All right, we're back and we get into a bit of playtime here. We're kind of on time, so we can spend a couple minutes here doing any viewer questions that we had or talking about any hot topics. One of them is ecstatic that you want to talk about here, Hugo. Do you want to give everybody at home a little bit of the situation as it is right now?
I certainly can. I didn't watch the game myself, but I've been following the fallout ever since.
Only the best ways of accusing people of cheating is when we don't want.
I would like to make it very clear. I don't think birdfromsky is cheating. The controversial take apparently nowadays. I don't think he's cheating. But apparently a lot of people do. He beat
a lot of people do.
A lot of people do. They beat Bad News Eagles in a BO3, and people were not happy with that one, Chad. I also want to, because I'm sure a lot of people already know and have followed the drama. I want to say one thing before you do anything, before you start getting angry about that round on B-Site Nuke where Dafu shoots someone through the smoke. Go to Fash's Twitter. Go watch it. He shadow played the round, for crying out loud. They're talking. It's live comms. It's first-person gameplay. You don't see the shot, but you hear Dafu go, "Oh wait, I killed him." Like it's very funny watching people get this mad about people cheating. But I don't believe it is the case. But it's very entertaining. I also I remember my first experience with ecstatic, which was at FunSpark back at the start of the year. It was an online tournament. It's one where who won it? Gambit won it. And ecstatic made a bit of a run. Astralis bombed out. Entropiq made a bit of a run. And Entropiq beat ecstatic in that game, because I remember how that was the first time I'd ever cast a bird from Sky, and I was so confused. Me and Harry are looking at each other like, is this guy real? Like, this guy's making the perfect calls on T side, and he did it every single game, and they were just really good calls. Like he was. I still call the pistol round that he does on T-side Vertigo. He was wrecking them with mid to B smokes every time. Entropiq were like watching the mid smoke every single round, and Bird from Sky would like throw in these rounds where they run the mid to B smoke, they go super quiet, Entropiq peak mid, they clear the whole thing, they rotate out, and then as soon as the smoke's faded, all of ecstatic just like little huddle 5-man walk right through middle as it's been emptied. Like there was some really good reads in that. I do think he's legit. I do think he's got some great calls. I do want to see him do it on LAN, of course. We all do, but people are getting very mad. Go to Fash's Twitter.
Okay, can you explain before I don't really want to fucking run this down back
Here we go.
whatever happened. Can you explain why people think he's cheating. 'Cause
They call him
caught the
radar.
drama,
I think a
but
couple of them are
understand
cheating.
that.
They're accusing him of radar hack. Basically, he's in game leading. He's making perfect reads, and like I will admit that tournament, I was going like, this guy is calling some incredible Counter-Strike. But at the same time, despite going like almost flawless throughout the entire tournament, best T sides of the event, they were 14-2 up in the third map on Ancient. They swapped over to T side, 14-2 up, and they lost the game, and Entropiq eliminated them. So it's just like, you know, they're not perfect. They're still coming up. I think this team is so interesting because I think Fasha is a real talent, definitely one for the future. But yeah, birdfromsky is tilting everyone.
But is it just because of one round, or was it just because
There's more.
No,
It's not
there are a
just him.
couple
They're
of
not just
rounds.
accusing him, right? They're accusing. Is it Dafu? They're accusing him as well.
But that's why I'm saying go watch the round, because like it's a bit,
Fair.
you know,
But
it's a bit
they
mental.
also talk
I
about
caught
on
the drama, I didn't
ESEA. They
catch
don't
the
perform
origin.
as well on ESEA as what people. I don't know. I didn't verify any of this. I was just reading. I go read the slag mags like the rest of you. I'm out there reading the forums and the fucking comment sections about what people are saying.
I need to catch up because like I saw people get riled up, but I just didn't understand the origin. I was like, where did they come from?
I hate the argument of like, oh, they did really well here and then they did really bad there, so you know they were cheating for this event, not this event. It's like we all know Counter-Strike. It's so hard to be consistent. Look at Spirit, a great example, a timely example. Go top
Obviously
4 at the major,
at the major,
come home, lose Pinnacle Cup online. Like it's so hard to be consistent. Obviously, you know, it's a different position for Spirit when, you know, maybe roster changes are on the horizon and everything. But it's so hard to win every event, or to, you know, like, yeah, you can wreck one tournament and you can, you know, bomb out one tournament. People have off days. I don't know. I'm birdfromsky has me on payroll, so here we go.
Okay, all right, that's fair enough. But that was that's the stuff around ecstatic. I think Norbert or Nealon, one of the two. I'm make sure I don't get those wrong.
Norbert, it's not. Yeah,
one of them wasn't happy that they played 5 AWPs or some shit. I don't know.
No, that was years ago. That was like a Finnish game. That's Norbert, not the best loser, we'll say.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Fair enough. Not at all us.
Which Finnish team was that? I read about that recently.
This was years ago. I think it was Havu. I watched that game.
Yeah, I think
it was CT Mirage, and they pulled like a 11-4, like 12-3 comeback using like 3 AWPs and 2 auto snipers. And like I don't know, I can't remember what team Norbert was in at the time, but they couldn't get through. And then Norbert made a really angry tweet after, like, this is a matchmaking game. It's like, well, they still won the matchmaking game. So quick global rank up.
You lost to a matchmaking team.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I got another thing I want to talk about here this evening. I'm going to send you the link here, Lucas. Now, this is about this this Espoo from Elisa Masters that have come out. Now, the interesting thing about this, to me, is the fact that it is under the umbrella of the ESL Pro Tour, I suppose.
Yep.
Because it's a qualifier. It's now considered an affiliate event for IEM Katowice in 2023. I was reading about this today. So we know for Katowice in 2023, the points are no longer how teams are decided. The way that the 16 teams are decided is the ESL Pro Tour Championship winner. So that would be the winner of this Cologne. The winner of a EPT Masters event. Well, there's 2 of those. CSGO major winner. So because it's for Katowice next year, it'll be the winner of Rio. ESL world ranking slots, 4 of those. And then the 16 for the play-in stage is decided by world ranking slots, then some regional world ranking slots, national championship, Poland / Germany, and then 3 affiliate events. And if it says down the bottom here, that if these affiliate events are not filled, right, they're unvacated, they'll just go back to world ranking slots.
Yep.
So this event that's being run, which will be a LAN event, right, it's a $200,000 prize pool event, is also a qualifier in a way for Katowice play-ins. So this here kind of gives a bit, I guess, of focus for this Elisa Masters event for a lot of the smaller teams who want to be in the play-ins, right? You'd go here to try and qualify. ENCE are already invited. That's a big name because this is a Finnish event. But I just thought this one was interesting. I don't know. Did you guys see? Did you guys catch this news?
Yeah, I mean, I was already curious about this one. That news about the changes in distribution for the Colognes and for the Katowices came out, this is a few months ago now. It's not really that new anymore. But I was curious about what those affiliate events would be, if they would bring in like a blast, or what is it going to be, right? Because obviously there's different players now in the TO market again. So it's curious to see that this one is. I do feel like, you know, if you do have big enough teams there, it's maybe not going to matter because they have said that. Oh,
Hello, Lucas. What's going on,
what? We just hear
moaning.
just moaning in the background. But yeah, if like this is a legit event, you know, like obviously ENCE already announced, but let's say it's gonna have a couple more 10 teams. Yeah, probably with this kind of prize pool and stuff like that. If it doesn't clash with anything big, it's probably going to be a
3 days after the major.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, it is going to be a legit event either way. Obviously, you know, post major and whatever, but there's probably going to be decent teams in this.
Flying back after the major from Brazil to Europe to then play.
Imagine this: November in Brazil to Finland. Let's go. Like easy. I don't know what the temperature is going to be in Rio, but probably 15 easy in November. Doesn't matter, probably more. And then into easy -15 in Espoo.
Amazing. Yeah. One thing I think that's really cool about this event as well is it says in the article there's in the arena it's in 7,000 people capacity. Like we haven't, I don't think we've had crowd events in Finland before, and obviously there's a huge CS following, not just in Finland but all of the Nordics, and like super easy to travel there. So I think that's really, really cool. Elisa have run good smaller lands before, good online events. So 7,000 people, I could see that selling out. I could see that you know hitting capacity.
Yeah, this is right next to Helsinki as well. Just for people who aren't aware, this is like literally a neighboring city to Helsinki. It's like whatever 20 minutes away from the city or something like that. So it's very, very very well located.
This has been one of the last opportunities then to qualify for Katowice. So teams will have to go to it. Like
could be.
And there's 8 positions out of the 12 teams total that are decided by invites, right? ENCE have already been invited. The other 7 are decided based off the ESL World Ranking. So, like, the good teams will be invited to go to, and the ones who need to qualify for Katowice will go. So maybe it won't be the teams from, I don't know, it won't be all the teams from 1 to 10. Maybe you get 2 or 3 of them, and then the rest you get from like
that's what I'm
10
thinking.
to 25 or something.
Yeah,
right?
but then again, maybe the event's not really going to matter anymore because they, like ESL have said that if the winner of an affiliate event, you know, has already qualified in some other way to Katowice or Cologne, they're just going to fill the other spot with a world ranking. So like it could turn out that this event is just going to be useless in terms of qualification because it's already going to be at ENCE, you know, who maybe
I prefer them doing it that way though than having it trickle down to the second place.
Yeah,
I think that's better.
Especially if it's like let's say the final is like, let's say there are 2 top 10 teams in the final. ENCE against, you know, just throw in 8 ENCE against NAVI or whatever, and then like the third team is a top 15, top 20 team. You know, there's just not good enough teams. Obviously you want to just protect the not integrity, but the level of competition at your events. You know, so that's that makes sense to me.
Cool. Does anybody else have anything they want to bring to the table? Did we get any viewer questions for Hugo? Do we have any other hot topics?
There's actually a bunch of like, I don't know, maybe 10 questions for Hugo about casting in general.
Okay, yeah,
so we can ask. I think this is a good one. He says, "Who have you drawn inspiration from in CS esports sports space in terms of casting?"
Oh, I'm gonna give the obvious, aren't I? I'm gonna say Henry G. I mean, come on, like, come on, guys. Yeah, I've had that a few times, especially back in the past. But yeah, the best, one of, if not the best to ever do it as a color caster. I wouldn't regard myself as like a hard color caster. I do get called that a lot, obviously, because Harry is like a really good play-by-play, and I give him a lot of room, and I do a lot of post rounds and stuff. But I think we've tried to make our own kind of hybrid-y style of casting. Harry's color has improved massively as a result. I always, prior to casting with Harry, was a play-by-play caster. You know, I worked with loads of people back in 2017, 2018. So obviously a lot of people. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, back in me and Striker, actually. That's a fun fact. I'll throw that in now. My first inspiration was my first LAN duo partner, and that was Striker back at the GEC in 2016. It was a 250k event. It was in Lithuania, in Vilnius, and that's probably all I can tell you about it. But Striker was great.
There you go, Striker.
Yeah. And I'm still in your Twitter.
Well, but people are giving props to Prof.
Yeah, there you go. Never got any other offers, so clearly I was really good.
You were just overshadowed. That's fine. You know,
true. I mean, I was casting with Vince most of the other times, so.
Yeah, I'll give props to Prof as well. You know, while Striker inspired me to cast, Prof, he writes all my tweets for me. So
there we go.
You know, I've got everyone on payroll on HLTV.
I did really. We did have like a small brainstorm for you and Dinko, really trying to get you on the social media train. Getting some interactions and all of that. I like he's been doing well. I feel like
Definitely.
He's improved a lot. He actually
His
posts
social
like
media.
he posts like a selfie here and there.
Okay.
Amazing.
All right. Nice.
His casting's improved a lot as well. I do want to like I could sit here and shout out like most of the talent I've worked with. Everyone coming up and everyone not established on the tier 1 events are really, really good right now. I think it's very competitive. I think Dinko's a great example. We've all seen him like also getting the experience to cast a lot of people like with Chad, with Yanko, with Moses. Like that's such important experience. Duoing is great in casting, and if you want to push yourself forward, you should duo. But prior to that, like me and many other people working with a lot of people, diversifying, you learn a lot by casting with different people. I used to cast with Scrawny back in the day, prior to duoing with Harry. So going back to the original question, Henry G, obviously, especially in Arena games, going into Katowice, I was scrolling back through the VODs and watching old Henry and Sadakist matches from previous events. Very, very inspirational there. But also I think Jason Moses, he's, in my opinion, I said this to him the other day when we were in Lisbon, like he's the best hybrid caster in the game right now, if you want to use the term hybrid, right? Because obviously he's a color and he's an analyst on desk, but his play-by-play is fucking amazing. Yeah. So I think Jason, like even now, still is some sort of inspiration to me and someone who I look up to on the mic, because he's very, very good at what he does.
I think he's also incredibly natural. Like he doesn't feel like he's trying. Like that's fumbles. Like, that's also that like, you can tell with some casters, that they're trying to hype, and like I just never get that feeling from Moses. So it is a weird quality that I never really understand.
Got any more?
Yeah, I mean, most of them are kind of a similar vein.
Okay.
Casting, a journey to CSC, and there's a question: who's going to pay for the surgery to split you away from Harry? I'm
here right now, and I don't see him. He's somewhere.
He's probably like squatting below the table.
Obviously, yeah.
Nothing.
Well, whoa, slow it down.
There we go. Didn't mean it that way. It's like if you interpret it that way, that's your.
Yeah, well, no comment. Harry's a fucking legend, man. Harry's the best. I don't know what else I can say about that. Like, I did read some of the questions earlier in response to the tweet, and people were asking about like synergy and me and Harry and stuff. So what I'd have to say about that is like it is very natural. It is very real. Like we have just worked together so long that we get on outside of the server, outside of the cast, as much as we do on. Like we're best friends, we talk every day, we play CS every day. So I think that seriously helps, and especially, I guess I could push that as advice for like upcoming casters watching. Find someone you want to work with, because you're going
to spend a lot of time.
Exactly. Firstly, you're going to spend a lot of time, but also like the product's just going to be better as a result. Like I've casted with a lot of people, and I don't have anything bad to say about people, but I feel more comfortable with Harry than anyone, because I know he's going to pick up what I put down and vice versa, and I know I can bounce off him and I can trust him. So yeah, I love Harry, and I love what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I mean, just my takeaway from the two events that I worked when we had the PCs and stuff, like you guys are fucking geeks. Literally every evening playing 10 mans or 5 mans, or just playing CS for like 3-4 hours after a whole day of working on CS. It's like, okay, these people actually love CS, and kind of like to spend time together, because otherwise they wouldn't do that. And other people just go to their room and sleep for 12 hours. Shout out to Chad.
Yeah.
Chad plays a lot of CS as well, though. Like, not all of the talent play CS. I mean, it's harder with the travel schedule, and I think it's like
you want to play CS when you're at home, but not when you're working an event for 12 hours. That's not. I don't think that's normal. I think
we're casters. We don't do 12 hours. We have easy schedules.
When you do 10 weeks on the road with 1 week off, you got to play Counter-Strike at the events, right? When else are you going to play? So you don't really have any other choices, right? Like I didn't go to Dallas, and then I didn't go to Pinnacle because of COVID, and I've just been playing Counter-Strike for 2 weeks straight while watching Counter-Strike. So it's like, it's good fun. That's what you want. You want like if you're not playing, I don't know. I get it's one of these things. It's like it helps with what you're doing as well. Like if you're more in tune with it, you're a bit more in touch with what's going on. All right. Any more Hugo Byron questions?
No, we're good. Like if people have them, they can also just reach out to him on Twitter, and I'm pretty sure like he's gonna respond. Like people actually do respond. I don't know.
I've got some Riot Gun buddies as well to give out. So get the DMs.
How will giveaway.
Hal giveaway.
I mean,
Hugo
give
TV.
me. I think Parla conned a Hal out of Bitskins at Pinnacle. So hey, Bitskins, if you're watching, I'd love a Hal, but you know.
There we go.
Shout out,
All right.
sponsors of the
Okay.
show. Maybe
Yeah.
you want to reward this fine young gentleman. We'll connect you.
All right.
Thank you.
We also got Xtrfy and M1Bet. Gamble responsibly. They're the sponsors of the show, as well as Bitskins here that brought you this podcast this evening. I guess, boys, we're done.
Yeah.
Good show.
Good time today.
All right. Didn't run crazy fucking 4-hour show. We were punchy. I had some good questions. We had a good focus about what everything's going to mean. We've got a show, I guess. We can talk about the next show just quickly.
Yep.
Prof's not going to be here. There'll be me and Striker. So we'll try and grab somebody to talk with. That's why maybe, Snappy could be a good shout, Striker, if we want to get talking about all that Blast stuff. Maybe
Probably traveling from Blast.
Yeah, it might be kind of tight. We'll see.
True. But we can have a little bit of a quick gander and see what's available. Hugo, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
The floor is yours now. If you want to say anything to the viewers out there, if there's anybody you got a grudge against, if you want to call Rush accounts, you can
I saw Rush in the chat say, "I'll give you my Hal." That's a fucking lie, Rush. No, you won't. I got it once. I got it for a week, and then I can't get it back. But that's fine. I still appreciate you, Rush. Thanks for having me, guys. This has been super fun, and yeah, I'm watching every week, so it's nice to finally be with you guys. And shout out to everyone who's watching as well.
Okay, easy done, boys. Got everything? We're good to go.
Yeah,
All good.
Lucas, you want to give us one more moan on the way out the door?
Just to be sure, that was not on purpose. I was
that's okay.
complaining about people being rude to me on Discord.
Usually, when you moan, it's not on purpose.
No.
At least when I'm involved. I
Whoa!
Who's under your
guys.
desk, Prof?
Oh,
don't know.
Well, there was some crazy noises coming from your house before, Prof. So we don't know what's going over there.
It's only the weird, maybe a succubus or something. Who knows?
All right, everybody. We're gonna put out the details for the next episode, probably next Monday or next Tuesday. We're gonna guest. We're gonna go in. Thank you to Hugo again. Thank you to the sponsors again. And have a good night. Make sure that your moaning for the rest of the evening is not on purpose either. Bye.
Add some fun to your space with Xtrfy, designed in Sweden with focus on quality products built on experience. You're looking at Project 4, their 4th generation of products with super cool colorways to stand out, with matching sets to satisfy with a solid B4 bungee, lightweight ergonomic M4 mouse, the K4 keyboard is fantastic, all of which are performance focused, and finish it off with colorful GP4 mouse mats that are bold in design and smooth on the surface. The retro theme in particular has got the feels. Complete your setup with Xtrfy. No regrets guaranteed.
Stuck ranking up? Lost the motivation to grind? Bored of clicking heads on aim maps? Get some color into your game. Bitskins.com. Buying and selling skins made easy. Tons of payment methods and instant cash outs. Just choose your dream skins, select your preferred payment method, and start grinding again. If you want to play like the pros, you gotta look like the pros.